Happy Monday. Welcome in. This is Three Man Front. Pat, Landrum, Molly. Conrad still on suspension. He'll be back with us tomorrow. Sweet 16 is now set. Man, big shock, right? 7 SEC teams in the Sweet 16. Now we don't have to listen to all the basketball intelligentsia across the country talking about, the SEC was just a fad. That league really wasn't that good.
No, and super proud of the league. I'll be the first to admit, though, I never thought we would have 7 teams at this point.
Why? You got 4 in your Final Four.
Yeah, you have the all-SEC bracket.
But I was not seeing the Arkansas run, and I really, as much as, I filled out 3 brackets. Ole Miss did advance in one of my brackets. But
Yeah, hotty-toddy for all y'all that didn't think the Rebels would do it.
Oh, y'all hating on Ole Miss. Look at us now. Yeah. But for Ole Miss to do what they did and for the SEC to have 7, it's pretty incredible.
It was an amazing weekend for the Southeastern Conference. Not so much if you love Cinderellas. It's just a historic fact that we've always had at least 1 or 2 teams make the Sweet 16 that we can always think, okay, well, if certain things happen, you might have a George Mason make the Final Four, Loyola Chicago make the Final Four, FAU making the Final Four. But not this year. It is all about the Power 4, and we'll get into that a little bit later on in the show. Later in the program, Mike Gittens is going to join us from the War Report. He was up in Lexington, Kentucky, covering the Auburn Tigers. We'll get his thoughts on them heading to Atlanta. Nick Kelly from AL.com. He will be at the next location, which is Newark, New Jersey, for Alabama later this week. We'll ask him his thoughts on the Alabama Crimson Tide. But let's start with the Auburn Tigers, Landrum. Big win over Creighton, 82-70. And you thought in the first half when Creighton was hitting those shots, are we going to have a repeat of what Creighton did in the first round of the NCAA tournament? But Auburn withstood the onslaught of the three-pointers. But, man, Tahad Pettiford, how much money did he make over the weekend? I mean, he was always going to be someone that was going to be drafted pretty high. But, man, seeing what he was able to do against that opponent with 23 points, 7 of 14 from the field, 6 rebounds, and he had 3 assists.
Yeah, you had to have it from Tahad Pettiford first and foremost, and some of those other scorers where they did a good job of shutting down Miles Kelly and giving him clean looks, and he was able to get a couple, but you didn't have the repeat performance of what Miles Kelly was able to do in the first round versus Alabama State when nobody else could get things going. Janai Broome, I thought for the most part, caught Brenner and Creighton, what they did to take him away, but to have Tahad Pettiford, not only to have the scoring production, but the shots when he hit them. Some of those shots and the waving bye-bye shot, but those were game enders and those were demoralizers. But also Chad Baker-Mazara stepping up when he had to. Dylan Cardwell playing like a leader and doing a great job on the defensive end. It was really a sum of all parts. And Auburn to be facing what they were facing heading in, and that Creighton team to shoot like they did. I think Auburn's got to feel pretty fortunate to be in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I mean, Blue Jays hit 9 3-pointers in the first half. They led by 2 at halftime. But you cannot say enough about Chad Baker-Mazara. I know we like to have some fun at his expense at times, but because him being the wild card. But the first 6 minutes of the second half, Chad Baker-Mazara scored 12 points.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot underscore how big that was for Auburn to be able to get those points. Because let's just be honest, Janai Broome, the first 2 games of the NCAA basketball tournament, he's almost been MIA.
Yeah, he's been off.
Just has not been himself, but that's why Auburn is such a good basketball team, because they have so many different facets, so many different guys stepping up when they need it to be stepped up. But then in the second half, Auburn's defense got a little bit more aggressive. Creighton only hit 3 from deep in the second half. They shot 23% from the three-point arc there in the second half. So Auburn guards, man, you cannot say enough about Pettiford, Denver Jones, and Baker-Mazara. They scored 55 of Auburn's 82 points was from the guards. Just an incredible afternoon for Auburn. Broome only had the 8 points. He was 4 of 13 from the field, but he did have the 12 rebounds. He had 3 blocks. And this is another area that has got to be concerning. Again, I know we're picking apart both Alabama and Auburn because now it's the Sweet 16. I mean, it's go time. And there's certain areas that both teams need to kind of firm up before they get to their next regional outpost. But, man, Broome is 9 of 23 from the free throw line in his last 3 games. That is 39%. from the free throw line.
That's terrible.
It's awful. And so, I mean, if you're a team going up against Auburn, just do not let him get the ball up, but just foul him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 9 of 23 in his last 3 games from the charity stripe. That has got to be extremely concerning from your player of the year candidate.
Well, it's concerning if he doesn't get it corrected, and you just wonder with 5 days off and a chance to kind of reset and getting past those first 2, maybe he has a new mindset going into State Farm Arena, a place that Auburn has, things have gone well for that team when they played there in the past few years. That is concerning for sure. But overall free throw production and when Auburn had to have them, they were good. The good news, though, for Auburn is that Johni Broome is capable of being a lot better at the free throw line. So is he able to regain that form? I think most of it, and maybe there's an underlying injury, Pat. Maybe something's going on with his shoulder, but I think most of Johni Broome's stuff is happening between his ears.
Possibly. Let's hear from the head coach of the Auburn Tigers, Bruce Pearl, after the win against Creighton.
Very proud of my team. We played Auburn basketball. We played like the number 1 team in the country. We acted like the number 1 team in the country. We prepared like the number 1 team in the country. We talked a little bit about game 1 and not giving the kind of effort and energy that was required, and not really trusting one another, sharing it, and the sacrifices that need to be made. Tonight, we put all that behind us, and the guys did a phenomenal job on both ends of the floor.
That was Bruce Pearl after the game. Chad Baker-Mazara, he got dinged up a couple of times in the game. Coach Bruce Pearl had this interesting comment to talk about Chad Baker-Mazara and his injury when he fell to the floor.
Chad, obviously he's a $175 soaking wet, and he's got a bony ass, and so when he lands on the ground, bam, it's wood on bone. And so he probably got a pretty good bruise. Hopefully that's all it is.
Telling us the obvious.
Yeah.
Did you think he was 175 pounds?
Yes.
Or he just had a bony ass?
Didn't really think about that. I didn't think that
either.
he was probably 175 pounds. And he's one of the more dramatic players. So you wondered about the injury and maybe how much he was letting on, but apparently he was hurt. He was obviously, but yeah, for him to step up and do what he did, especially to set the tone in the beginning of that second half, and then Denver Jones hitting a big 3, that was to start things out in the second half, kind of set the tone. You had to have Chad Baker-Mazara. We knew that, right?
Yeah, had to. And so that was big. Dylan Cardwell, he's had a really good tournament. He showed up there in Lexington. Listen to what Dylan Cardwell had to say after Auburn made it to the Sweet 16.
We've been slacking. I think we can just show up to games and allow us just beat people, but we're going to play some good teams and some people that are hungrier than us. And we have to make sure that we're a hungrier team. That's when we're our best. You look at our non-conference schedule and how high we were in the non-conference is because we were the hungriest team in the country. We're number 8. We're number 1 for 8 weeks in a row. I think we kind of lost that fire and desire, but now it's like I had to lay into them so they can respond. They responded really well. So everyone was on time to every single thing, and it showed me that they cared. At the end of the day, Sweet 16 is not where the story ends, and that's the kind of mentality that we have going forward. Like, let's just celebrate tonight, celebrate for the next hour, pack it up, move on.
I was Dylan Cardwell after the game. As Auburn makes it to the Sweet 16, they're going to see a familiar face. And of course, now with the transfer portal, it's almost on a nightly basis. You're playing probably a former teammate, Trey Donaldson, who spent 2 years at Auburn University. He's one of the star guards for the Michigan Wolverines, so they will see him in Atlanta. It was interesting. In 2 years at Auburn, he averaged about 4.6 points per game. This year number 1 in Ann Arbor, he averages 12 points a game for Michigan. So he is an important, integral part of what the Wolverines need to do to be successful. So it'll be interesting to see him going up against his former team.
Yeah, and they know what he does well. He knows that system very well. It's not like there's going to be a whole lot of secrets in between these two. You got KT Harrell, who played at Auburn, who's head of their basketball operations, and some other guys with familiarity between the two programs. But Trey Donaldson, he's been big for Michigan and a key for Auburn, not only with their bigs, with the 2 7-footers, and Danny Wolf, a guy from Yale that transferred that they saw last year in the tournament, but also what you can do to try to knock them off the 3 line. And that's not something that Michigan has been particularly strong at this year. They didn't have to have a whole lot of them versus what we saw against Texas A&M, but you got to take it away and you got to limit that and try to focus on the bigs, and that's going to be the challenge for Auburn.
So Auburn has been installed as an 8-point favorite against Michigan, and that is a Friday night game. That is an 8:39 Central Time tip time on Friday night in Atlanta.
So almost 10 o'clock tip time in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And they probably will be over 10 o'clock by the time they get it going and tipped off there in Atlanta. Meanwhile, Alabama, they were in Cleveland over the weekend. They took care of business yesterday, 80-66 against St. Mary's. Alabama held St. Mary's to just 25% shooting in the first half. More importantly, St. Mary's just could not get anything going from the outside. They were 0 for 6 in three-point shots in the first half, and Alabama led by 13. The Tide had 6 players in double figures. Interesting that Chris Youngblood had 13 points at halftime, but did not have a single point in the second half. But Sears and Amori had 8 points apiece in the second half. But Alabama finished +5 on the boards overall, shot 52% from the floor, including 41% from the three-point arc. And it's the first time in 105 games that St. Mary's has given up 80 or more points. And now it's the third consecutive year that Alabama has made the Sweet 16. And it's very interesting because it's the first time since 2004 and the fifth time ever in the state of Alabama that the state will have 2 teams in the Sweet 16. 1982, Alabama and UAB did it. In 85, Alabama and Auburn did it. In 86, Alabama and Auburn did it again. In 2004, so it's been 21 years since 2 teams from the state of Alabama has made the Sweet 16. Back in 2004, it was Alabama and UAB making it. And so now Auburn and Alabama both making it to the Sweet 16. Let's listen to Nate Oates, what he had to say after this impressive win in which Alabama holds St. Mary's to 66 and they score 80 against a very deep defense.
That's a tough team. We knew they were tough. You know, we got up on them 13 at the half. We knew they weren't going to go away. You know, they came out in the second half. They were scoring on us a little too much. You know, I thought our guys, though, did after they made a little run there, I thought our guys answered it. You know, we played well on the offensive end. For most of the game, we had too many turnovers. You know, they had 0 turnovers at the half. We were able to turn them over 6 times in the second half, which was big, helpful. We were up 10 on them on the glass at the half, and they're the second best offensive rebounding team in the country behind Texas A&M. We've happened to play both of them. Houston's obviously up there too, but you know, I thought our guys did a really good job. You know, Cliff had 8 defensive rebounds. He had a double-double, 11 and 10. I thought our guards did a pretty good job finding them. You know, we had 6 guys scoring double figures between 10 and 13. I really want to – Sears is not up here, but I thought his energy, his positivity when he was on the bench with the 2 fouls, how hard he played on defense even with the foul trouble, I thought was huge. You know, but we had other guys step up and be able to score. I think it's tough to guard us when you get 6 guys capable of getting double digits, and that's not even counting multiple guys that have scored it well for us that didn't get to double digits. So thought we had great leadership tonight, showed a lot of toughness. Said, you know, the tougher team's going to win this one, and that's one of the tougher teams in the country. So really, our guys really stepped up and met the challenge there tonight.
So you had 2 guys on national television before the game predict that St. Mary's was going to beat Alabama.
Yeah. The key was going to be Alabama beating St. Mary's at their own game. And St. Mary's was counting on owning the points in the paint and owning the blocks. And Alabama, they went toe-to-toe with them. And they went physical. And St. Mary's, not the best shooting team in the world. I think we saw that. The 3 out of the 14 threes that they were able to hit, they hit them in the second half. That game was – did it ever feel like to you that game was in doubt? Not to me.
No, it didn't, especially when I saw when they were missing so many bunnies.
A lot of them. And a lot of teams that miss a lot of bunnies this weekend.
I mean, just not very good around the rim. And you knew that they were not going to be a threat from the outside. That's just not their game.
No.
So when your big guys down low can't make those easy shots, then should be a good afternoon for Alabama, and that's the way it turned out.
Where's the scoring going to come from? And for anybody to hold Alabama, if you're expecting to hold them under 70 points, that's going to have to be an Alabama off night.
It was just interesting because of the fact that we just really did not have a lot of upsets. I mean, I guess Arkansas is the biggest upset that, you get through the first weekend of the tournament. So many people, they wanted to write the script for a Cinderella. They wanted to so bad. And I think that's why Seth Davis, even when the brackets came out, I mean, he started propagating the idea that University of California, San Diego was going to be that team. And then yesterday he was saying St. Mary's was going to be that team. I was surprised Jay Wright went the direction that he did, saying that he predicted St. Mary's to beat Alabama.
What's been the beauty of the NCAA Tournament March Madness and what we've come to love about it is some of those stories, whether it's a St. Peter's or a George Mason or, a Valpo in certain years that make those runs as those higher seeded or lower seeded team. But now, and that's why I said before the tournament, in a minute, I thought that chalk would probably hold. In college football, we would say, well, it's different with the college basketball tournament because in college football, you're not going to have one of those teams that come out of nowhere because overall depth is going to end up taking over. Talent and depth, that will take over. Well, now, at least in this case, in this tournament, looks like the same things happen in college basketball, where those teams that might have been led by a guy who was a fourth-year guy that went under the radar and really started to blossom once he got to the collegiate level, those guys are on other rosters. And a prime example, and it doesn't have to be a guy that's played, take a guy like J.P. Pegues, who was a point guard who played on a Furman team that was competing for SoCon championships. He played in a tournament game. He had a huge three to propel them in the upset that they had a couple of years ago. He's riding the bench, but he's not there for a team like Furman that battled Wofford for their conference championship.
Right.
I think that's the case for a lot of these rosters where those guys, they're just not, they're sitting on Power 4 rosters right now, or teams that are still in the tournament.
Yeah, because they're making a little money and they would rather cash checks. And
I mean, we're talking about Arkansas as a 10 seed and being that team that nobody saw coming, a team that reportedly has the highest NIL budget of any team in the SEC, maybe college basketball. And a coach is celebrated as John Calipari.
Yeah. And started out 0-5 in your conference.
Yeah.
That we literally, people were thinking about, well, this is buyer's remorse. Like, what are we doing? And we had Ty Richardson on. I mean, Ty Richardson was on suicide watch.
He had some great quotes over the weekend, though. Like they put us in the coffin, but they forgot the nail.
Whatever.
You love Cal.
Yeah, so much so. So Alabama and BYU, we will have plenty of time to preview this BYU team. It is, if you like scoring, 175 is the current game total in the game. I can go ahead and tell you, I like the over. BYU doesn't play much defense. Alabama can play defense when they want to, but the Tide, they're a 4.5-point favorite as of this moment in Vegas.
Duke is playing great. In Florida, I thought that was a great win. In Tennessee, I've been impressed with them the first 2 weeks or first two games. But BYU, that's the team I don't think anybody wants to play right now.
No. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're extremely hot.
But I do feel better about it if I know it's in Alabama, knowing that you got some times and there's a reset. Now, if you had to go and you had to play them again tomorrow night, that BYU team, I feel maybe a little bit different. I know games aren't supposed to affect the next game in tournament play, but that will not be an easy task. But Alabama's still favored, according to Vegas.
Yeah, 4.5 points. So we will get into all of that. Reminder, Mike Gittins will join the show at the top of the hour. He covers the Auburn Tigers. Then the 12 noon hour, we will talk to Nick Kelly from AL.com. So we've got a lot to go over on this Reaction Monday. We'd love to hear from you at 1-800-239-WJOX, the Courtesy GMC text line 205-834-9450 on this Reaction Monday.
Well, speaking of down in the blocks, we see a lot of that during tournament play. How about our friends at Second Generation Masonry, builders, contractors, and homeowners? When your project calls for precision and durability, Second Generation Masonry is the name to know. If you're a builder needing a dependable local company for masonry work, Second Generation is the team that do stunning backyard transformations as well. Outdoor kitchens, hardscapes, patios, fire pits, retaining walls, and concrete driveways. Every project comes with a 1-year guarantee. Their craftsmanship speaks for itself. If you want quality that lasts, Second Generation Masonry, give them a call today or just find them online at secondgenerationmasonry.com.
It is your Reaction Monday here on Three Man Front. We'd love to hear from you. 1-800-239-WJOX. This is Three Man Front on Jocks 94.5. It is 1024, Jocks 94.5. Welcome back in. It's Reaction Monday. Conrad will be back with us tomorrow. Pat Landrum, Molly. Landrum will be out of here at 11 o'clock. I wish I had his schedule.
Yeah, it's a great
Just
schedule.
kind of comes in, does an hour, and heads off. Goes plays golf and chills out.
He's got more important things to do.
Oh, yeah, sure. That's what it is. No golf today. It's Monday. Not going to play golf.
It's a little rainy, too.
I hadn't played golf in forever.
A little rainy, too. Not only did Alabama and Auburn were they successful over the weekend, how about the UAB Blazers late last night? They knock off Santa Clara in the NIT. They now have qualified for the quarterfinal round. It did not look good in the second half. Sitting there doing the game with DC last night, UAB was down by 17 points with 16 minutes left. And then UAB went on a 51-40 run there in the second half. Yaxel Lindeborg, 22 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists. That's his 25th double-double of the season. Some folks would like 25 double-doubles like over the entire career. but let alone a whole season. Christian Coleman came up big for the Blazers. He had 21 points. How about this little nugget? The Blazers are 15-1 when Coleman scores at least 15 points.
That's a stat.
Yeah. So you just need to get him 15 points, and you like their chances. UAB hit 11 three-pointers last night. They were 11 of 24, 46%. It's been over 2 years since UAB has hit 11 three-pointers in a game. So it's been a minute. But here's another amazing stat. I mean, the game was just filled with just crazy oddities. UAB had 4 turnovers the entire game. 4. And the last 16 minutes, UAB only had 1.
Wow.
Yeah. Another
That'll
reason
do.
Valuing possessions, Pat.
how they were
Wow.
able to come back. So the Blazers are now 24-12. Another fun stat, Andy Kennedy is now 17-6 in postseason games at UAB.
There we go.
The guy just knows how to win in the postseason, undoubtedly. So the Anteaters are next, Wednesday night, 8 o'clock, with a trip potentially to Hinkle Fieldhouse on the line.
Can we go back to the court, though, at Santa Clara?
Oh, you didn't like the
It's a mural of the campus. No, I didn't like it. It was.
would you like to take a guess on the announced attendance in last night's Santa Clara UAB game?
I'm going to tell you because I tuned in for a second for the TV broadcast to see that awful court. It sounded like pandemic basketball.
Did you like the rims?
It sounded like I could hear individual conversations going on. The rims, yeah, those were
Were the announcers not the 2 worst announcers you've ever heard doing a college basketball
wasn't great.
game?
You had natural light that was coming into the gym.
Oh, they were terrible.
The floor had a mural on it of the school, and there were 6 people there. What was he announced?
Did you take a gander at the crowd, Molly?
Yeah, not a lot.
I'll be honest with you. I have, and this was on the official stat broadcast information. So this is not some like arbitrary number that I just came up with. Like this was a published number. 747.
Oh.
Okay. And that includes probably,
Both teams
but
and staff
personnel.
and broadcasters.
Everyone.
That
And
had to
ESPN
include
technicians.
That's everyone.
That's
arena
everyone.
personnel, that's parking lot, that's concessions. Are they counting the officials?
Probably.
Probably.
747 was the announced attendance.
I believe it. Wasn't a person over that.
So now UAB, they've been out there since Friday. So they played last night.
If you're going to go out there, make it worth the trip.
Absolutely. So UAB was out there Friday. They played last night. And now they're going to, Santa Clara is right outside of San Francisco. So they will make the 6-hour trip south to California, Irvine. And then they'll play Wednesday night. And then if you win there, you will get an opportunity to go to Indianapolis, Indiana.
Is Irvine, that's the Anteaters?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It is.
They play in a funky little arena too. Don't
They're a
they?
number 1 seed, if I'm not mistaken, in the NIT. So think about this. UAB went to Philadelphia, then from Philadelphia back to Birmingham for a day or two, then from Birmingham to Santa Clara. And then I assume that, I don't know if they bus, I don't know if they fly, but they're heading 6 hours south to Irvine, and they'll play Wednesday night and then come home. Hopefully, then have an opportunity to play in Indianapolis. It was going to be an interesting scenario. Jacksonville State lost by 3 last night. If Jacksonville State would have won, UAB and Jacksonville State would have played in the quarterfinals in the NIT. Now, how cool would that have been?
Oh, that would have been
I
awesome.
loved it. Yeah.
So both Alabama teams being shipped out west and having an opportunity to come back to Alabama and playing a tournament game. But instead, Jacksonville State gave a good fight to UC Irvine, but they lose last night. So UAB now continues on in the NIT with their AAC brethren, North Texas, who also won last
Meanwhile, Memphis, who made the big dance, they're not playing any more basketball this year.
night. One and done. They couldn't even get to 1-2 barbecue. They were one and done.
They had that draw with Colorado State.
That was tough. When we come back on Three Man Front, the Sweet 16 is set in the NCAAs. We'll do a quick review. We'll take your phone calls, 1-800-239-WJOX. It is 10:34 on this Reaction Monday, 1-800-239-WJOX. So the Sweet 16 has been set. It's going to get underway on Thursday. Bama and BYU, matter of fact, that's the first game of the evening. That will take place in Newark. The second game of the night will take place in San Francisco. So it's going to be like a 4:39 tip-off there in San Francisco as Maryland will take on Florida. And then at 8:39, it will be Arizona and Duke. That will follow the BYU-Alabama game in Newark, and then Arkansas and Texas Tech. That will wrap up the evening on Thursday night. Then on Friday in Atlanta, first game of the night will be Ole Miss, Hotty Toddy, versus Michigan State. And then at 6:39, Kentucky and Tennessee, they will renew their rivalry in Indianapolis between those two schools. Then at 8:39, Michigan and Auburn. Auburn an 8-point favorite. And then at 9:09 will be Purdue in Houston. So that's your setup for the Sweet 16. 1-800-239-WJOX. Bama Hater is going to kick things off on this Reaction Monday. What's up, Bama Hater?
Pat, what's happening?
What's going on, man?
Hey, man, my bracket is busted.
Is it? All right. How about your Final Four? What are you looking at right now? Do you have any remaining?
I got Auburn and I got Houston and Duke left.
Okay, so you're like me.
Fine.
You've got 3 of 4. Wisconsin was in my Final Four, and so they bit the dust. But Maryland was one of my Final Four teams. They are still alive. Thanks for. Let me ask you. You do a little officiating on the side, and I'm curious. Was that a walk? Yes or no?
I can't comment on that. You're not going to get me in trouble. I can't do that, man. I might have my district director listen. I can't comment on officials.
Okay.
But Pat, I call to talk about the Sweet 16. Now the SEC, y'all got the majority of teams.
7 teams in the Sweet 16.
But you won't have the national champion. And I want to know from you personally, and Conrad the Con man, I want to know if you guys' enthusiasm is going to be as high in the Duke game as in the BYU game. Do you have any confidence in Bama beating Duke?
Do I have any confidence in Bama beating? Well, I'll just tell you this. In my bracket, which has been published, I've got Auburn winning the national championship. I do not have Alabama in the Final Four. So, yeah, I've got
I do.
I've got Duke beating Alabama. So
I also have Duke.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Molly. I knew we had a good one out of the group.
Well, she kind of like props up all of her ACT scores because she does one.
Yeah, but I forgot Maryland is not in the ACC anymore. Right?
Big Ten.
So we only got one team in the ACC holding us up. So
Yep,
Yeah.
it's Duke.
Hopefully Duke can pull it out, but I don't think Bama is strong enough down low for Duke. So I'm picking Duke versus Bama because we know that's going to be the matchup.
So you think BYU can't give Alabama a problem?
The only way they can give Bama a problem is if Bama is looking ahead to Duke.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think Bama too strong for them, man. They too strong down low. Plus, Bama got the outside shooters if the threes are going in. But anything can happen in these tournaments, man. We see that year after year.
So, okay, let me another line of questioning on that call or the no call. Did you pause when you saw it?
A little bit.
Okay, then
okay. A little bit.
Okay.
It's easier to do it from the couch than it is on the court.
Sure.
Just like in that they call it a goaltending, and it wasn't. It was just a block shot in that which game was that? I can't think. But they called a goaltending live action, but it was an actual block. So,
right.
It's easier on the couch than it is on the court.
Are you talking about St. Mary's in Alabama? Was that the SWAT at the rim?
Yeah. It was a clean block, but in live action, it looks like a goaltend, but, I guess that's what replay is for.
Well, just like the definition of what a catch is in football, I guess now we learn what exactly it means when you have a possession.
Yeah. Did he have time to gather himself?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think they I can't call his name right now, but the Dallas Cowboy wide receiver, he's still pissed off about that non-call. That was a catch all day long.
Yep, I agree. Bama Hater, always appreciate it, man. Have a good Monday.
Thanks, Bama Hater.
You too.
Thank you for the call. Let's go to Chris next. Joins us here on Three Man Front. Hey, Chris. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Give me live and thanks up with a year roll tide, y'all. I got every now and then, I suggest we man, we get motion every now and then. And Bama Hater calls in and mentions Alabama or SEC. We have a drinking game because it's nonstop. He mentions them. You might as well call him the side effect of our medicine. He may cause drowsiness. That could be a fact. He also does. Now, speaking of Alabama, I think this is where the L train comes in and gets them. Because I'm with Pat. I didn't think them going past the sweet Elite
16.
Eight because.
Do you have them in the Elite Eight?
Yeah, I didn't have them going past Sweet 16 or Elite 8 because they've proven on numerous cases they're gonna do just enough to get by. And honestly, it's kind of sad because when you think of like the expectation of the Bama fan base, when I think about it, right, you would expect at least the Final Four because they've had numerous opportunities to put themselves in a good position to actually win throughout the season. But they'll even struggle against the likes of would have had Robert Morris more the first round. So I mean, it goes without saying that they have to really prove themselves to everyone. I mean, think about it.
Thank you, Chris.
What do you guys?
Appreciate the phone call. I've got him in my official 3-man front Final Four. I've got Alabama getting by Duke, but I think most people right now think that Duke's the odds-on favorite. Vegas does. Duke is your favorite according to Vegas right now to win the national
the way they shot the
championship.
three yesterday, that had to make everybody go.
Yeah. And they're playing like that. They're going to be really, really tough to beat. Even against intriguing matchup though, if we do get them in Florida.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up Florida, because isn't it interesting how a week ago at this time we're all like, Florida hands down, national champion, SEC raising the banner, it's done. And then all of a sudden you see a lackluster UConn team this year, who's they got dudes.
They do,
but they just didn't put it together this year in the Big East for whatever reason. And you saw UConn take Florida out of their game. And it reminded me a lot of the Florida-Tennessee game in Knoxville, where Tennessee just took Florida out of their game and Tennessee knocked them off.
Yep.
And so that has to hit pause when you think about Florida. Still an incredible team.
UConn played one of their best games of the season. Florida came out, they were flat. And a lot of that had to do with UConn taking them out of what they did. But UConn, with the way that they're built in their bodies, they were built for a Florida.
Yeah.
That was a really, really good matchup for UConn as opposed to Florida. But for Florida to respond the way that they did and to come back and to take a late lead and to have control of that game for the final 2 minutes, and Walter Clayton hitting the big shots that he did, I don't know how you walk away and you're like, well, Florida's not the team that I thought they were.
Yeah.
They absolutely are. But to your point, Duke, that was pretty flawless what we saw in the first two opponents. And it should have been.
So it's interesting because the transfer portal opened up last night at 11 o'clock Central Time, which is crazy that the NCAA allows this to happen during an NCAA or a postseason for a lot of these teams. And also, we've had a flurry of activity on the coaching front. News started coming out over the weekend that Texas was going to make a change. It is not official, but people that you trust that cover the Texas Longhorns, they are reporting that it is going to be Sean Miller from Xavier. He is going to be the next coach at the University of Texas. Iowa, meanwhile, is set to hire Ben McCollum, who is the head coach or was the head coach at Drake University. And this just out a few moments ago, Minnesota is going to hire Colorado State's Mike Medved, who had that tough loss against. His name has come up for a lot of jobs. Mm-hmm. And so Medved now is heading from Colorado Springs to Minnesota. And once again, it kind of proves the thought. You've got a lot of mid-majors, non-power fours. You got the coach for Drake, got to the NCAA tournament. Well, guess what? I mean, he was at Northwest Missouri State before he went to Drake. Now he's going to be the head coach at Iowa. Big step up.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you got Medved, who has been at Colorado State, done a nice job. Now he is heading to Minnesota in the Big Ten. So I'll give credit. I think Minnesota and Iowa both have made excellent hires. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not saying that Sean Miller's not a good coach, but one of the reports that came out yesterday that Texas had kicked the tires on Nate Oates and didn't get very far. They even kicked the tires on Rick Pitino, didn't get very far. But Sean Miller is someone that they had vetted a couple of years ago when Chris Beard got into that problem and they went with Rodney Terry. When they took the interim tag off of Terry, Sean Miller was supposedly one of the main guys that they had looked at.
Well, and for he and Will Wade, those are two guys that were, now McNeese would have been a lot further back than Miller being at Xavier, and we know that basketball program. But those guys were looking to get back at a power school in a program that has unlimited resources. For Sean Miller, I think that was easy to get. Going back to Nico Medved, though, the Colorado State coach, it's just interesting. I'd forgotten he started his career at Furman. And then he was the coach at Drake before DeVries took over. And then DeVries from there went to West Virginia. And now he's just the coaching carousel and kind of seeing with those. But Odom going to Virginia, potentially, VCU, that'd be a big hire for them. But I would have liked to have seen, I was telling Paul this morning on the morning show that it would have been fascinating to have Will Wade coming back in the league.
Yeah, I saw where Will Wade was making $700,000 at McNeese, and he had $1 million buyout. And so word is that NC State, that's going to probably put him up near around $4 million, something like that. I did read where Sean Miller is going to make over $5 million at Texas. If you're keeping score at home, Nate Oates makes around $5.02 million a year. So I think Miller will be in that Nate Oates ballpark. which Nate Oates is the 10th highest in college basketball.
Well, no disrespect, but now the roster of SEC basketball coaches just got, if it wasn't already stupid, now it's really stupid.
Yeah. No off days for sure.
No.
More three-man front, more of your calls. This is Reaction Monday. Mike Gittins from the Auburn's War Report. He will join us at the top of the hour. This is a Reaction Monday Sweet 16 version, Jocks 94.5. It is 10:50, Jocks 94.5. We'll talk some Auburn basketball coming up at the top of the hour. Mike Gittins from the War Report. This is Reaction Monday. We love your interaction. The text line is busting at the seams. We will get to your text momentarily.
Well, for flu, pollen, and allergy season, keep your home cleaner with Trane's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. It removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those contributing to allergy and virus, and is proven to be more effective than standard and HEPA air filters. So contact a Trane certified dealer for the Clean Effects Air Cleaner.
1-800-239-WJOX. The phone lines have been ringing off the hook. We also have plenty of text messages coming in on the Courtesy GMC text line.
Ed, one of our listeners from Oxford, Mississippi, listening on the Jocks 94.5 app, he texts in, Pat, and says, "Hotty damn toddy, both teams in the Sweet 16.
How about that? First time since 2001 that Ole Miss has made it to the Sweet 16. So they've never made it as far or past the Sweet 16. So Chris Beard doing an excellent job in Oxford.
And this one rolling in from Bobby. He says, "Never thought I'd see the day where a coach comments on the size of a player's derriere." Going back to Bruce Pearl, talking about
the bony ass?
The bony
That was pretty
backside of
funny.
one Chad Baker Mazara. This one rolls in. Announcing for Bama versus St. Mary's was horrible.
I'm not a fan of those two guys. And here's the thing I was thinking. Those guys did, 4 games in Dayton, right? And then they turned around, they went to Cleveland, and they did all those games. They did more games than anybody's done so far for CBS, True TV, TBS, whatever. That's not their best crew.
No.
Now, I'm not saying that you're going to put, Bill Raftery on the first 4, but I'm just not. I agree with the texter.
That was not my least favorite crew of the weekend.
Well, no, there's some pretty bad ones, in my opinion. I know exactly the road you're going down, and
I couldn't do it.
But I agree that was not a good crew in Cleveland. So
someone texting in, Santa Clara is where they filmed the movie The Lost Boys. I did not know that.
I did not know that either.
Jody texts in, says, "Well, Alabama going to lose to BYU. Bama hater picked Alabama. He can't pick his nose, much less a game."
Wow.
Bama hater chiming in. Pat, is it just me or does number 44 Dylan Cardwell for Auburn look like a young Wes Unseld?
Oh, you know what?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Never thought about that, but that was a good call.
That is a good call.
While neither fan base will admit it, this season has been a success with the 16. The gravy is now to advance further than the other. Talking about Auburn and Alabama, that one rolling in from Montgomery.
I mean, when you look at it, it's just amazing. I mean, we all were talking about how we were concerned that the gauntlet of the SEC regular season schedule was going to keep a lot of these teams from maybe making it to the Sweet 16. But when you have 7 teams make the Sweet 16, first time ever that has happened. Big 10 has 4, Big 12 has 4, the ACC has Duke.
JJ chimes in and says, "Good morning. Y'all checking in on the app, traveling back from Molly's neck of the woods, visiting Omaha." Tell Creighton we said hello.
Yeah. The J-Skers.
Jody from Oklahoma, different Jody, chimes in. "Interesting, Bama's beaten 2 private schools, plays another private school in BYU, and would likely have to defeat another private school in Duke to make the Final Four. I wonder if any school has ever made the Final Four by beating 4 consecutive private universities."
I'll take a little research. I've not seen that stat. That is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Robert, thank you for chiming in. "The crew in Seattle was completely awful." I won't read the rest. Is that the one?
Yeah, that was
maybe.
one of them.
Yeah, it was.
Now, I will say this. One of the member of that crew I like a lot. That's Robbie Hummel. I think he does a really good job. He works for the Big Ten Network. He works for Westwood One. You listen to the games on Jocks 94.5 and our sister stations. You're going to hear him do the Final Four. He's good. I can't say the same for his 2 other partners.
Yeah, it's different. It's just different. It's a different listen. No. I tried. Nope. Couldn't do it.
What did you do?
I had to turn it down. And that takes a lot. Drake says, "Did you guys hear the comments from the UConn coach, what he was telling the Baylor players?"
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how he thought they got screwed as he's walking off the court and he sees the Baylor guys and says, "I hope you guys don't get screwed like we just got screwed." How'd they get screwed?
At what point in the game? Because he complains a whole lot. A whole lot. The one was on the screen. It was early in the first half where UConn freed a guy up for a screen. And UConn player, he slid out. It was a moving screen. Referee called it, negated the 3. And you saw Dan Hurley say, hey, so-and-so, he's calling the official by his first name. That's BS. He didn't say BS. That's BS. That's just a bad call. And they showed it again. It was like, what is he complaining about? I've seen far less get called. Cody says, Landrum, why do you hate Kevin Harlan so much? LOL. No, it was not Kevin Harlan. Harlan did a great job this weekend.
No, Harlan's fantastic.
It says, Hurley is the Rusty Wallace of NCAA basketball, always complaining. Thank you for the text. Robert says, doesn't matter if it's private school or not, Bama's in the Sweet 16 for the third straight year, the first time since the mid-'80s. Someone asking, Landrum hates Spiro. It was a hard listen. That was. We said a couple of crews, not calling out names. Is Dan Hurley the Dabo Swinney of college basketball with how much he complains? Asked Bobby. I don't know. They both have the same number of national championships, which is 2. You can complain a lot if you've got hardware.
That is true. Speaking of hardware, the number 1 overall seed, they have advanced to Atlanta, their own backyard. Mike Gittins from the War Report is going to join us next. We'll talk a little Auburn basketball on this Reaction Monday. Nick Kelly later on talking Bama. This is 3-Man Front on Jocks 94.5. Welcome back in. It's hour number 2 of 3-Man Front. Pat and Molly, the rest of the way. Landrum did the morning show. He was kind enough to hang out with us for the first hour, get his reaction to the Sweet 16. Conrad Van Order will be back with us tomorrow. But the big story, Alabama and Auburn punches their ticket to the Sweet 16. Auburn will be playing later this week in Atlanta, Georgia. And joining us now on the Higginbotham hotline from the War Report, Mike Gittens joins us. Talk a little Auburn basketball. Mike, I hope you're doing well on this Monday.
I am. There's been a lot of traveling the last couple of weekends here with the SEC tournament and in the NCAA tournament. We made the trek all the way out to Spokane last year, guys. So I was happy to get something a little bit closer. I know Auburn fans were to great first round showing, I think, for both teams in state.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Let's talk. I want to start with Janai Broome first off. He's had some issues the last 3 games shooting free throws. We had someone text in the show asking us if we believe or we had heard anything that maybe his shoulder has been acting up or whatever the case may be, because he just did not look like himself the first 2 games. Just your thoughts on Janai Broome on the first 2 rounds of the tournament.
Well, he's missing shots he normally makes. Down low with his back to the basket, he's been one of the best players in college basketball. And so watching him live in person this weekend, it was pretty clear to me that it's mental. I don't think there's an injury affecting him. I think it's just mental. We noted some things in the pregame, about Janai and some of the other guys. And look, I mean, he's been on a historic run this year. He's allowed to have a couple off games. I think that's the beauty of the team that Bruce Pearl has constructed this year. They really started constructing a couple of years ago, going and getting Chaney Johnson and Denver Jones and Chad Baker-Mazara, and now those guys have his back when he's not playing well. It's no longer, hey, Janai Broome or bust, or Jabari Smith or bust, or any of the good players that Auburn has had come through the last few years. So, look, I think that he's going to be just fine, and the fact that Auburn is winning without his normal production on offense, I think just speaks to how good this team is. Janai's going to snap out of it at some point. I think he'll snap out of it in this next game versus Michigan.
So it's interesting because you had Miles Kelly step up big time against Alabama State. This time he had Tahad Pettiford, 23 points, 7 of 14 from the field. Just how good has Pettiford been, not only the whole season, but obviously what he was able to do against Creighton. He just made himself a lot more money, in my opinion, what took place in Lexington.
He has. And Auburn had a freshman last year that didn't score in the first round, and they lost by 2 points. So these are meaningful points by Tahad Pettiford here. He carried Auburn versus Creighton. I mean, I think it's not a stretch to say you lose without him. He scored 23 points. He's seeing the court, and he's playing at such a high level right now. Auburn can be such a streaky team. Look at what Miles Kelly did in the last game versus this game, and then go back to the game before that. Like, man, what a up and down kind of roller coaster he's been on. But if you look at Tahad Pettiford, I want to take you back to the non-conference. Auburn had just beat up on somebody, and Miles Kelly came into the post game, and he said, "You never know which guy is going to be the guy that can go for 25 to 30 on this team." And I know a lot of guys say things like that, and it sounds like team rhetoric, but I think it's bared out this year so far. You really don't know who's going to be the guy. I don't know if they envisioned that Tahad would be this good in year one, especially with the balance of minutes that he's played. Now, he played 35 minutes, I think, in this game. One of the most minutes he's played in any game so far this year. And it was clear that Bruce Pearl was going to stick with the hot hand there. Tahad Pettiford, mark my words, will be the reason that Auburn wins a championship if they make it to the Final Four.
Mike Gittens joins us from the War Report here on Three Man Front. Also want to talk about Chad Baker-Mazara, because I thought the first 6 minutes of the second half, his 12 points, man, that's really set the tone for an Auburn team that was searching for offense and had gone into halftime trailing Creighton. So I thought he was big in that role.
Yeah, there was a thought that kind of taking his edge away, saying, hey, go out there and don't do anything, don't do anything that gets us in trouble. Like, don't get kicked out of the game. There was a thought that him trying to bridle that part of himself was affecting his game these last couple of games. And I'll tell you what, he went out there and he absolutely took over that game. First 6.5 minutes, like you said, before he got hurt, he went blow for blow with Creighton. He finished with 17 points. He scored 12 of those points in those 6.5 minutes on an absolute tear. When he went out of the game, I thought, oh, my goodness, like, who's going to pick up the scoring? Well, we talked about it just a second ago, Todd Pettiford. But Chad Baker gives you something, I think, that it's hard. It's hard to teach. He's a great two-way player. He plays, championship-level defense. And he can score, in the paint, shoot the three. They absolutely need him. I'll be interested to see if we get an update this week on his injury. It looks like we couldn't see it live, but it looked like he took a kidney shot.
Yeah.
From a Creighton player there. Again, people were tweeting at me. They saw it on TV. So another key piece to this team that I think, God, you just need as many pieces as possible because your margin for error in March is so thin. And Auburn has a lot of places to go, I think, when guys aren't playing well in other areas.
Well, we already talked about Pettiford and Baker Mazzara. I want to talk about the other guard that was part of the trio that scored 55 points over the weekend against Creighton, and I'm talking about Denver Jones. Denver Jones gets a lot of press because of his defense, but he had some really big three-pointers against the Blue Jays. He's going to be big also for Auburn moving forward.
I'm talking about an efficient player, right? He doesn't need a lot of shots to affect the game offensively. And that's what I love about Denver. You hear Bruce Pearl talk throughout the season about shot selection. Sometimes when they lose, he'd say, look, I didn't like our shot selection tonight. Even sometimes in wins, he would say that. I thought Auburn did a good job, in particular Denver Jones, against Creighton, of making sure that he took good shots. He hit open shots, and that's exactly what he did. Now, on the defensive side, look, he is giving the opposing team's players 40 minutes of hell on defense. Jedi Broome may be Auburn's best player. Todd Pettiford may be Auburn's most talented player, but I think Denver Jones is actually Auburn's most important player. Now, he had a quote in the post game after Creighton that said, look, he focused on defense this offseason because his goal was to be one of the best two-way players in the league. I don't think anybody would argue that he accomplished that goal, and so he's just got to do it a few more times if Auburn is going to get to San Antonio.
Talking to Mike Gittens from the War Report as we're talking the Auburn Tigers heading to the Sweet 16 in their own backyard in Atlanta, Georgia, taking on the Michigan Wolverines. Let's talk about this schedule that Auburn had this year. One of the toughest non-conference schedules you will find anywhere in college basketball. Had, of course, that tough loss at Duke inside Cameron Indoor Stadium. But Auburn has played 9 of the other 15 Sweet 16 teams for a total of 13 games. They're 9-4 against those teams that are in the Sweet 16. Talk about that schedule, how that has given this team the toughness needed to potentially make it to the Final Four.
People gave Auburn so much flack for the couple that they lost at the end. And there was a reporter after Auburn lost to Tennessee in the SEC tournament that said, essentially, hey, it's time to hit the panic button. And Bruce Pearl gave him the wildest, bombastic side eye I think I've ever seen. And said, panic? Like, we lost to Texas A&M and Bama. Yeah, and now Tennessee. We're real panicked. Look, this schedule was historic. It was historically good. The amount of quad one games that they played, absolutely insane. And then to come out of it, and I want to remind people, the couple that they lost at the end, they were meaningless games, really, in the grand scheme of it, because the committee has shown us year in and year out that you are what your regular season says you are. Well, Auburn had already had the regular season locked up. And I will not lie to you, I was in the group of people that thought that the outright championship, SEC championship, would come a little closer to that last game. They won it with 2 games left with this schedule. Now, I like the stat that you said. I tweeted that out about how many teams Auburn had played this year that are on into the regionals, into the Sweet 16. Just insane. Look, when you make these schedules, you don't always know how good some of these teams are going to be. Auburn, obviously got a chance to play, get some extra quad one opportunities in there in the preseason tournaments that they were in. But this schedule was so good that if you don't make it to San Antonio, I think it's hard not to see this season as a disappointment, to navigate all that and then come up short. I think you still have to validate it, though, by going deep into this tournament. I would say a tough Elite Eight loss would be acceptable, but you really want to see them get through to the Final Four with what they accomplished this season. Because what I don't want to see is Auburn doesn't get the blue blood bump all the time. They don't. And they had to play a historic schedule to avoid being knocked off that number one seed. Hear me out on this one, right? If this were Duke and they lost their last two games, or North Carolina, they lost their last two games, there wouldn't have been any talk about them not being the number one seed after they played a schedule like that. But the whispers were happening. And I think that if you're Auburn, again, you can establish a precedent moving forward if you go deeper into this tournament by saying, look, when you give us the number one overall seed, we're going to reward you for doing that by getting to the Final Four. And I think, like I said, if you're Bruce Pearl, now's the time to do it. I think he's on the back half here of his career. So, I don't know how many years he's got left in him. He looks good every time I see him with lots of energy. I wish I had his energy. But, if you're not going to get this is the year you got to get it done with this squad, with this many seniors, with this much experience. I think this is the year you have to get it done. And so that schedule sets you up for this. And now you have to validate it. You got to put a stamp on it. You got to get to San Antonio and you got to show the world why that schedule wasn't a fluke.
All right, let's talk about Michigan for a minute, Mike, in regards to seeing their old friend Trey Donaldson, who spent 2 years at Auburn, averaged around 4.6 points per game. He's really come into his own there in Ann Arbor, averaging nearly 12 points a game. He's had some really big shots for Michigan down the stretch. Talk a little bit about what you've seen so far of this Michigan team and what concerns you with that matchup against Auburn.
Well, first of all, little message to the Michigan Wolverines. You're welcome for Trey. You guys are welcome. What a great player, man. Look, he left here. I think he did things the right way here, left here on good terms. His teammates remember him fondly. Had some discussions about this, reunion, so to speak, with Trey Donaldson. But when I'm looking at this, I think, he's an experienced guy, and he gives you something. There's something about going to the tournament and losing the way he did with Auburn last year, where you can take that experience and channel it, right? It was interesting. In the postgame versus after Alabama State, Bruce Pearl said that, look, Alabama State, as far as like tournament resume is concerned for their players, they're more accomplished. They've done more than we have. Right. And he was talking about our guys went and lost the game. Those guys are more accomplished on paper than we are. And I think if Trey Donaldson gives you an experience that's really hard to come by, man. This matchup with him scares me just a little bit. If I'm an Auburn fan, I'm a little bit worried about that he's not going to be shook. Now, it's different. Going up against Aiden Holloway, no worries, right? But going up against Trey Donaldson, I worry a little bit. I think that, he is a guy that gives you experience, knowledge. He's going to be cool under fire. He's going to be such a good floor general for them in this Sweet 16 matchup. And I think Auburn's going to have to play their best game, man, to beat Trey and the Wolverines. So, look. We saw their matchup, right? Like they were down and came back and it went back and forth. And there's no path to an NCAA championship in basketball that's not going to see a bunch of ups and downs and a bunch of adversity, right? And Trey Donaldson is a guy that Michigan has that can help them navigate. I think those ups and downs, those ebbs and flows.
All right, so let's play the game. Let's say that Auburn does get past Michigan. A fourth matchup with either Ole Miss or playing Tom Izzo in Michigan State for a right to go to the Final Four. Which one of those two teams gives you heartburn?
Not Ole Miss. Look, Auburn has dominated this team, and they've done it again and again and again. And, in football, we say it's hard to beat a team twice, right? And usually it's the winner that gets lulled into the false sense of security, thinking, hey, we can do what we did last time and win. But Ole Miss is not a team that scares me. I just don't think they play defense well enough. Look, Fadula can shoot. I think they're a streaky team that can score. Was it Chris Beard that said, with the quote that said, I don't think we lost. I think we were right out of time. Was that him? I think if you're Auburn, Ole Miss is the team that you want. That's the one you want to play. And they're known to you on a neutral floor I think that I just don't think they match up well with Auburn. And if you get normal Janai Broome back, it's not even going to be a question here. Like I said, they don't scare me at all.
All right. That is Mike Gittens from the War Report. Outstanding coverage of Auburn athletics. Before we let you go, also, I know that there's plenty of women's basketball fans, and Auburn made news yesterday. They made it official, and I know you cover the women's game. You're at most of their games down at Auburn. Just your thoughts on the new head coach for the women's program at Auburn.
So many questions. Larry Vickers comes in here from Norfolk State. First and foremost, I want to validate this man's ability to coach basketball. He is a great basketball mind. And I think that if you're Auburn, I'm on record I did not like Johnny Harris's firing. I don't think there was any basketball basis for it. She inherited a team that had not won an SEC game, got almost zero resources, and went out and got them to the NCAA tournament by year 3. They had a tough year with injuries. I think there's questions that I have about Talia Scott and why she didn't play this year. And some of this stuff I think will come out later. But ultimately, there were a lot of big names being floated around to this job. And one of the things that I've tried to tell fans, because they'd be like, oh, we want Molly Miller, we want Kelly Harper, we want this person, that person. I said, guys, I don't know that these guys are actually interested in the job. I don't. And I think that Auburn went the route that they had to go for where this job is at. Because in today's day and age, we talk about it in football, we talk about it in basketball. Janai Broome rumored to have gotten 7 figures to return. They said, again, nobody knows the exact number, but it's purported to be the biggest NIL contract that Auburn has given to any player. Now, obviously, money well spent, right? Sure. You need that kind of money in women's basketball. Now, maybe not Janai Broome money, but you can't win without the dollars. You can't. And what I hated about this coaching change was Johnny Harris was getting she got the SEC's leading scorer to come here with almost no NIL commitment. Deanna Gaston came in from Texas. She was a top 8 scorer in all of the NCAA last year. Tough year with injuries. And look, you are what your record says you are for the most part. But, Larry Vickers, I like the hire, but I think he's in the same position Johnny Harris is in. He's not going to work miracles without support. He needs money. And I hope, I'm waiting to see the contract, the details, because Johnny Harris was the lowest paid coach in the SEC last year. I want to see if the dollars are going to show that there is a greater commitment to women's basketball. It is a growth market right now. What Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese did last season, it's just an absolute mistake not to invest in women's sports right now, especially women's basketball. I want to see them do right by these girls, and I think that hiring a coach like Larry Vickers is a step in the right direction, but he still needs the support, and that would be true if it were Kelly Harper or Molly Miller or any of these other big names that could have gone out and gotten. Right? You can't do it without the support, and Auburn's they've got to step up to the plate here and say, we care about women's basketball. Because, outside of football, Auburn makes you earn it, man. And that includes men's basketball, for the record. Yeah. Right? Bruce Pearl had to go build it brick by brick to get the support. And he's still saying, give me a new facility. What do I got to do to get a new facility? I get it. Look, before we end here, I know this is long-winded, but hear me out. I think it was the 2023-2024 fiscal year, the Auburn Athletic Department posted a profit of $60 million. I'm sorry, Auburn football posted a profit of $60 million. Right. The athletic department posted a profit of $11 million. Basketball made $5 million. So hear me on this one, right? The rest of the sport cost the university $50 million to exist. Ooh. Right. So I get it. Football is always going to get their first pick of the litter. And people don't like hearing that. But these other sports don't exist without football. They just don't. Right. If you're Auburn basketball, you are now in the black, but you operated in the red for decades. So that's a recent phenomenon. And now if you're women's basketball, you have an opportunity with the right support to be one of those programs that creeps into the black. We've seen LSU do it. We've seen South Carolina do it. Ole Miss is well on the way. Come on, Auburn. Let's step up to the plate here and let's do the right thing for these girls. And let's get them support. Let's get Coach Vickers' support. He's got an introductory press conference at 4 Central today. I'm headed up to Auburn to meet him for the first time. But I want that for them. We're one of the few outlets that covers Auburn women's basketball consistently, one-on-ones, firesides, sit-downs at restaurants.
Yeah.
We invest a lot of time and energy and money into covering it because we believe in it, and we believe those girls deserve the support. I just like to see the university raise their level of support publicly and with the dollars for that program.
That is Mike Gittens from the War Report. Outstanding job covering the Auburn athletics program. Mike, always appreciate it. Enjoy Atlanta, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. That is Mike Gittens joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR needs. This is Jocks 94.5 Reaction Monday. More three-man front when we come back. Great conversation with Mike Gittins from the War Report. If you missed that interview, you can download that interview, the Three Man Front podcast. Coming up next hour, Nick Kelly from AL.com covers the University of Alabama. He will join the program. We will talk to him about Alabama heading to Newark, New Jersey to take on the BYU Cougars. You know, owning a home is great, but it can come with its share of headaches. Some of you out there have had foundation issues around your house. Cracks have started showing up. Those doors and windows won't close right. You can't ignore it because those issues are going to get worse. That's why you need to call Alabama Professional Services at 205-951-9717. It'll be the best decision you've made as a homeowner because APS has been around since 1977, and they're the guys that you need to call when you have all these issues popping up around your house. APS are going to send a team out. They really know their stuff. They'll inspect everything, explain the problem clearly, and they're going to offer solutions that are tailored to your home. There's no pressure. Just honest advice. So you need to call them today, 205-951-9717, or visit their website at alabamaprofessional.com. Trust me, you'll be glad you did because they can fix your foundation. They can tackle that sinking driveway. They have this incredible poly-level system that they can level up your concrete around your house. And of course, they've got the crawl space encapsulation system. Call them today, 205-951-9717, or alabamaprofessional.com. is the website. Talking a lot about the Sweet 16 on this Reaction Monday as Alabama and BYU will get everything started. That will be the first game on Thursday. Bama is currently a 4.5-point favorite. 175 is the game total. Auburn's game will be at 8:39 on Friday. They'll be taking on Michigan, and the Tigers are an 8-point favorite. 152.5 is the point total. The big story across college basketball is the fact that 7 of the 14 teams from the SEC in the NCAA tournament, they have now made the Sweet 16, which is a new record. The previous mark was 6 teams set back in 2016 when it was the ACC. The SEC went 7-1 in this second round. So, Molly, the Twitter poll question of the day had to do with who impressed you the most over the weekend?
Yeah, exactly. Which SEC team impressed you the most through the first weekend of the NCAA tournament? Was it Pat's Ole Miss Rebels? Was it Arkansas, Auburn, or Alabama? And right now winning, Pat, it's pretty close, but Arkansas is winning with 38%, Ole Miss at 36%, Alabama with only 17%, and Auburn's in last with 9%.
Well, they're the number 1 overall seed.
They should be here.
That's understandable. You got Arkansas is a 10 seed. Mm-hmm. Ole Miss is a 6 seed. In the 64-team format, which has been around since 1985, there has never been a Sweet 16 to not see at least one non-major conference team in the Sweet 16 until this year.
It's crazy.
The closest instance was 2016 and 2017 when 15 major conference teams made it. Gonzaga was the lone exception in both of those years. The best chance for a non-power conference program to advance through the second weekend was last night when Maryland knocked off Colorado State. The Rams are a member of the Mountain West Conference. So the only double-digit seed that is still playing in the Sweet 16 is Ty Richardson's Arkansas Razorbacks.
And that's actually who I voted for as well in the poll.
You voted for Arkansas?
Yeah, just because you kind of mentioned it earlier, but when you start 0 in conference play, they were, 0-5 in their first 5 games. And, kind of looking into the postseason as well. Personally, I didn't expect Arkansas to be in this position, being in the Sweet 16, so that's why they got my vote. But I will say Ole Miss was a close second for me. Yeah,
Ole Miss, for only the second time since the program's inception that they've made the Sweet 16. The other time was 24 years ago in 2001. They did not get past the Sweet 16 in 2001. So we'll see if Chris Beard has some magic against Tom Izzo and Michigan State. The Big Ten, your former conference.
That's right.
They started off 10-0 in the tournament.
Unreal.
And then they lost 3 straight.
Mm-hmm.
And then Maryland won and Michigan State won. But then Oregon lost.
I'm sorry about Wisconsin too.
Yeah, that's one of my Final Four teams. I know you're really banking
on that one.
Yeah, that was one of the Final Four teams out the door. So from a betting standpoint, how many of you out there had a good weekend? In the round of 32, favorites were 11-5 straight up.
Okay.
But underdogs were 9-7 against the spread.
Okay.
And the over was 9-6-1. Now, overall, favorites in the tournament. They're 36-12 straight up. So there hasn't been a lot of just pure straight up upsets.
Mm-hmm.
But the favorite is 26-22 against the spread. So straight up, they're 36-12, but they've hit 54% against the spread.
Yeah.
After dominating the first round, unders, that dipped to 27-20-1. So the under is hitting 57% of the NCAA tournament so far.
Okay. I love betting the under.
Yes, that has been a predominant thing so far in the NCAA tournament. It is Reaction Monday. We'd love to hear from you. 1-800-239-WJOX. The Courtesy GMC text line is open. 205-834-9450. $11:34, Jocks 94.5 on this Reaction Monday, 1-800-239-WJOX. How's everybody's bracket doing on this Monday? The suit, Ryan Haney, joins me in studio. He'll be hanging out with me for the rest of the program. How's one of your 27 brackets you have? You got any that are still alive in the Final Four?
Yes. You know what's crazy? I sent a screenshot to somebody joking around. It wouldn't have happened anyway with Ole Miss and New Mexico in the Sweet 16. I didn't pick either of those. I would have split.
Oh, I was going to say, did you have a bracket that had those?
Oh. I didn't hit save. No, Final Four is alive and well in all three, I think. But really, my bracket was, and I don't necessarily feel great about it. Again, you're trying to win based on the point system, was Auburn, Florida, Alabama, and Houston. Duke's going to be a tough out. Doesn't mean someone can't beat them, but Duke looks legit. So we'll see.
Yeah, hitting those outside shots yesterday just kind of elevated the whole premise of Duke being able to win it all.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean,
I kept holding to the fact that the ACC was just a terrible league.
They are. I mean, they were mid-major this year, maybe.
Well, I mean, they were.
But Duke is elite. I don't think there's any way around it.
They do have dudes.
Doesn't mean they can't or won't lose. I just maybe there's been some underselling of Duke.
So let's talk about Auburn for a minute. Based on what you saw this weekend, any level of concern with what you saw?
No.
Even with Janai Broome?
Well, again, I don't. He was double teamed automatically on Thursday. Creighton coach came out and said after the game their game plan was to take Janai Broome out and Miles Kelly out, and they did. And it was the three other guys, small forward and the guards, that beat them. So truthfully, I think Auburn probably needed something like that. It looked like at times it was kind of heavy on Broome. I do think. From here on out, it's going to be a tough matchup because he, even at 6'11", is going to be playing some dudes that are taller than him. No, I struggle with the what's wrong with Auburn question because if we say, well, is it because they're not blowing teams out like they were 2/3 of the year? Is it that teams are playing them better? There's so much tape, and is it they were so hot for so long, things have cooled down, with the ebbs and flows. If they play their game, they can beat anybody in the country. And if they play like they played against Texas A&M and the first half against Alabama in their own arena where it looked like they were a little bit disinterested, yeah, we know what can happen there too. I don't, what are we comparing? I mean, that's my question, right? I'm not trying to avoid it, but I mean, what is it because Auburn's not beating people by 40 points? Is that why we should be concerned, or is it because they were so dominant in the SEC regular season?
I mean, for me,
I think you kind of throw out the Alabama and Texas A&M games to some degree. I know some people won't like that. I mean, you won the historic league with a week to go.
For me, it's the thing that should scare everybody about Auburn on the good side is the fact that they come at you in droves. I mean, there's a different player every night that can step up to make things happen. You had Miles Kelly in round 1, you had Pettiford in round 2, and you don't have your best player performing at the level that he performed the majority of the season. That bodes well for you. But with that being said, Charles Barkley, who obviously is the biggest cheerleader you're going to find for Auburn basketball, he had serious concerns.
Yeah, no, I think
about Janai Broome, because your top players, it's time for them to play.
It looks like, right. To me, there and I looked like he was pressing. It looked mental. I think Mike said that a few minutes ago. It just looked same way. I mean, I think with St. Mary's yesterday. I mean, they were getting open looks and they couldn't hit 3-foot shots away from the basket, to stay in the game with Alabama. I would say this: what would concern me the most with Auburn, and I do think it's fair, is there have been times, I know you can make this argument for a lot of teams throughout the year, they'll be up 14, 15 points on folks and then go on a 4-minute scoring drought or some kind of get out of the offense and some just firing up shots. Next thing you know, a team's down 4 or 6, and then they would bring the lead back out. You're playing with fire there. I think if Auburn plays good defense and doesn't make dumb fouls, and they can get their fair share of defensive rebounds and offensive rebounds, they can beat anybody. But again, we've seen it when I think you could make an argument maybe they did get complacent after the Kentucky win. And complacency, whether it's you, me, Molly, anybody's a hard thing to kick. But I do think they seem to have kicked that the other night. They looked like a different team to me.
Well, to me, the impressive thing in the second half of the game against Creighton, and you heard Dylan Cardwell at halftime when he was being interviewed, he said, we got to chase them off the 3-point line. Like, we've got to do a better job defensively. And when Creighton comes out and shoots 23% and only hits 3 threes in the second half, that was the ball game.
Yeah.
Because, we talked about it when we were at Twin Peaks last week. The recipe for Creighton to beat Auburn was they were going to have to shoot 56 to 58% from the three-point line to beat Auburn, because that's what they did in their first game against Louisville. And the recipe was there in the first half. So Auburn had to disrupt that. And when they did that defensively, you felt really good. But it's a different poison if you're playing Auburn, especially the last 3 or 4 weeks. And I think that's what, if you're an Auburn fan, you got to feel really good about, because even if Janai Broome is 4 of 13 from the field and he's shooting 39% from the free throw line, which he is over the course of the last 3 games, you've got other dudes that can make it happen, and they're making it happen.
Well, and that was the thing last year, even with the Auburn team, even despite the run in the SEC tournament, and they still shouldn't have lost to Yale in the first round, but it was what was going to happen. Aiden Holloway had disappeared. Trey Donaldson had kind of really taken over that spot. But who was going to take that shot? I do agree with what Mike said. I think Pettiford is probably the key to a degree, being able to create without the ball. And defensively, I mean, I think Denver Jones is probably the most important player, because if he can shut down the guard positions the way he has sometimes.
And he gave you offense.
Yeah, and he gives you the offense. So we'll see. I mean, you get to this point, anything can happen. You know, I looking at social media last night, I saw some folks discounting a couple teams in the Sweet 16. I've seen a couple of those teams play a couple times this year. I was like, you know, be careful.
Yeah, it's like Ole Miss. Molly's been crapping on Ole Miss.
Look, I mean, look, Ole Miss shot the ball in a way that they don't normally shoot the ball. You know, like last night. I mean, I think Ole Miss is going to have a tougher time with the size and the length of Michigan State. I'm being 10 deep.
It's a Big Ten team. It's no big deal.
We'll see.
We got it.
I disagree with Giddens there, though. I wouldn't want to have to play a team the fourth time.
Chris Beard is an excellent basketball
Not coached by Chris Beard, I wouldn't. You're the better team. You've got more talent, but that guy can flat out coach.
Yeah, it's not Rodney Terry over there on the sideline.
It's one thing if you're playing in the Final Four. Now, I also understand with 14 teams in the league, and everybody forgets when they see, because they say this team got an easy draw, that team got an easy draw. There's parameters in how you have to do the thing. So a lot of it is just luck. I mean, I don't think either one of us thought UConn or Gonzaga was an 8th seed. They were both better than that.
No.
So, I mean, it is what it is. It's a tournament of randomness. Random stuff happens. And that's also why we love it. I do disagree with everybody in the hot takes going around. I will say this week of there was not that many upsets and that's going to ruin the tournament. No, but it makes for better second round Sweet 16 and Elite 8 games usually.
I'd agree with that.
I mean, everybody loves the Cinderella story, but even when, was it George Washington or George Mason made the Final Four that year? Did anyone really think that they were going to go?
Well, it's like Loyola Chicago with Porter Moser. Yeah. I mean, who really thought that Loyola, outside of Sister Jean, was going to win the tournament?
Even in St. Peter's run. I think the biggest thing for Auburn was getting the monkey off the back of going out early.
Yeah.
And at this point, being the overall number 1 seed, you can't ask for anything more than to be hopefully fairly healthy, playing basically 2 hours from home.
All right, so let me get
you got it all, and you're the best team in your region left, so you've got everything right there. You just have to go win.
All right, so let me get your quick feedback.
Okay.
You're the first thing that pops in your mind, okay? I'm going to give you a spread, and you tell me who you would take, okay?
Okay.
Bama 4.5 against BYU.
BYU.
Florida 6.5 over Maryland.
Florida.
I was about to say, I would take Florida.
Florida. Maryland's, they don't have a lot of depth.
Duke 9 against Arizona.
Ooh.
Quick.
Arizona.
Ooh, I'll go Duke.
I'm just going off the top of my head.
No, that's the process we're going through. Texas Tech 5.5 over Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Michigan State 2.5 over Ole Miss.
Michigan State.
Yeah, give me Michigan State. Sorry, Pat.
Tennessee 4.5 over Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky.
Auburn -8, Michigan.
Yeah, probably Michigan.
But I like dogs. Like whether it's football, basketball, I usually back the dogs.
Houston 8 over Purdue.
Give me Purdue.
I think Purdue, they're playing pretty good right now. I think they'll keep it close for a while, but I'm going to go Houston to wear them down.
All right. Here are the updated odds as of this moment to win the national championship. Give me which one of these you think is the best value. Okay. I'm going to give you a handful of them. Duke at 2-1, Florida 4-1, Houston 5-1, Auburn 6-1, Bama and Tennessee 14-1.
Ooh.
I actually like the 14-1 there because if you get the upset,
Yeah.
And let's say Alabama or Tennessee match up in the Final Four. If you're saying from a value standpoint, I would take either one of those at 14.
At 14-1.
Yeah,
What was
14-1.
Auburn's again?
Auburn is currently 6-1.
Okay, I like that too.
You like Auburn 6-1? Arkansas and Ole Miss, they're your long shots.
Well,
100-1 to win the national championship.
We know what Pat's betting.
BYU, Michigan, and Purdue are 70-1. Kentucky 50-1, Arizona 40-1, and you've got Maryland at 25-1, and Michigan State is 20-1. Are you firing in right now? Is that what you're doing?
No, I was just pulling them up on my phone. Also, my phone
That's
in my pocket.
exactly what he's doing.
I thought something felt weird on my butt, and my phone was in my back pocket. Well, I mean, you asked. I mean,
Bony butt.
It is a bony
Chad
butt.
Baker Mazara.
It is a Chad Baker Mazara butt for
There
sure.
you go. All right, this is Reaction Monday. Coming up at the top of the hour, we will talk to Nick Kelly from AL.com, covers the Alabama Crimson Tide as they head to Newark, New Jersey to take on the BYU Cougars. All that on this Reaction Monday. This is Jocks 94.5. So the UFL is getting ready to kick off. Our Birmingham Stallions looking to win their fourth consecutive world championship.
Will they do it?
Of course they're going to do it. Why do you doubt that?
I didn't. I just asked you a question.
The reason I bring all this up is there's a little bit of turmoil going on. You remember a couple weeks ago, there was a lot of questions about whether the UFL was going to strike. The players were looking at the potential because they're a union. They're trying to get an increase of pay. They make around $55,000 per player. They wanted an increase. So that's still been out there percolating. And an interesting situation had developed. The head coach of the DC Defenders, Reggie Barlow, he is taking a job at an HBCU. He's taking over for
Eddie George.
George. So we're a week away from kickoff, and they don't have a head coach. Well, they've named a head coach now. And now the Memphis Showboats don't have a coach. As Ken Wisenhunt, who, remember the last couple of years of Nick Saban in Tuscaloosa, he was a special assistant. He was at one time the head coach of the San Diego Chargers. Mm-hmm. He has just stepped down as head coach of the Memphis Showboats.
Where's he going?
Undisclosed.
Huh.
I assume Skip's still the head coach of the Stallions?
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
So.
I don't know. Think so.
I think we're scheduled to talk to Skip later this week on the show.
That'll be a good time to ask him.
Yeah, I guess. Hey, coach, are you still the head coach? So that's just odd.
It is odd, but isn't it a little bit different, though? I mean, your rosters are in place for the most part at this point. You're not having to worry about a portal. I mean, these guys are playing to try to get an NFL contract. A little bit different. I mean, I know timing's odd, not ideal, but
6 days away for kickoff for the Showboats, and now their offensive line coach, Jim Turner, will take over as the head coach of the Memphis Showboats.
Seems like a natural fit for Jim.
Yeah, it is. Good for Jim.
I mean, in that you would have chosen to take over?
I would have probably gone to see if Penny Hardaway was busy. Same thing, right?
Well, he should have some time.
Yeah. One and done Penny.
What about that last night? Were you outraged like a lot of people were with the
about how UConn got screwed by Florida and the officiating?
No, the Maryland with that third step. But isn't there a rule like when you're bringing the ball in that doesn't count as the first? Isn't there like some technicality that?
Yes,
that's what I thought.
It's like what is a catch?
Right.
In the NFL or college football, for that matter of fact.
Yeah. I was more impressed that the guy hit the shot off the backboard.
Absolutely. So when you were watching it in real time, we asked Bama. Bama Hader officiates on the side.
Yeah.
And I respect him as an official. I respect him as an individual. But I'm just saying, when we were talking about it earlier in the show, I just asked him, I said, when you saw that play live, did you pause? And he said yes, which meant it looked funny. You know what I'm saying? But when I was watching it in real time, I didn't think anything of it.
I didn't either. That's interesting.
And then all of a sudden, the internet started exploding.
I say Twitter was all over it.
Well, Twitter's all over everything, even if it's not.
Well,
you know, it's really kind of crazy how it all is right now.
It is.
Well, you know, there's been plenty of coaches, and you know, one of my favorite guys that I literally love watching post game is Mick Cronin. I love Mick. UCLA head coach. He had some interesting things to say this year about traveling to the East Coast. Just some bizarre comments after his game with Tennessee. Take a listen to Mick Cronin post-game this weekend.
Right now, guys, it's 12:40 a.m. and our season just ended. That's it. You're going to ask me about next year? Right now, my biggest concern is how bad the seats are on the Allegiant flight on that terrible plane that we're going to have to fly home tomorrow.
The school bus.
The cheese. The plain version of the cheese.
Hang in there.
And is there any chance that Doug got me some hot food, because I don't eat on game day, that I got something edible? Not next year. Not right now, guys.
So the question was about next season, and you heard his response. He was more worried about the terrible flight that he was going to have to take back to Los Angeles.
You saw with Tom Izzo last night. Coach, what are your thoughts on playing Ole Miss? Well, how the hell did he know they were playing Ole Miss? The game was going on at the same time. Like, some of the questions, I get why certain questions are asked, but sometimes, like, I don't know. Is like common sense not play into it? I mean, I look. I know questions are asked for the soundbite and the response, because that's the name of the game now. Is get your soundbite and click here, click here, click here. But I mean, yeah, asking somebody about I didn't have a problem with the way he answered it.
I didn't
thought it was
either.
funny.
He's just the entertainment
But
level.
what do you expect
for
a
him.
coach to say, right? Like, there's a Michigan guy I read. One of their players is Scottie Pippen's son is entering the portal. Now, I don't know if that means he's in there now or if that means when they get done playing, he's going in. I mean, it's such a different time. It's like weird, man. It's all just so strange.
Yeah, it was just like one of the reporters.
I wish you would have said is, well, I want to figure out who the hell is going to be on my basketball team come Monday.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing, because something was said to Coach Cal, and Coach Cal didn't even know that the transfer portal was opening up today.
Right.
And so when someone mentioned that, he goes, "Are you kidding me? It's open Monday. Like, I've got to try to get my team prepared to play a game in the Sweet 16. And now I'm going to have a bunch of meetings
Surprise.
with a bunch of players."
That's the other thing that goes into this. How many of these teams of the last 16 left? How many of these rosters are going to say, because a lot of players are being tampered with. We don't even want to discuss this until we're done. And how many are their mind halfway out the door knowing they got something on the other side?
I can just tell you that as Alabama was getting ready to get on the plane and head to the Rose Bowl to play Michigan in the national semifinal game, there were multiple players requesting meetings to discuss their NIL situation before they got on the plane to go play in the national semifinal game. So you can imagine what kind of chaos is going on right now in college basketball. Nick Kelly, AL.com. He's next. We're halfway home. This is Three Man Front, Jocks 94.5 Reaction Monday. Pat Smith, Ryan Haney, the suit in the rest of the way, along with Molly Robinson. Landrum and Conrad back with us tomorrow. Alabama and Auburn, they have punched their tickets to the Sweet 16. Auburn, a winner 82-70 over Creighton. They've got Michigan coming up in Atlanta on Friday. That is an 8:39 tip Central Time. Meanwhile, Alabama over St. Mary's yesterday, 80-66. Next up is the Cougars of BYU. They will play in Newark. Our next guest will be there courtside. I hope he watched Goodfellas. I hope he watched The Sopranos. I hope he watched Carlo's Bakery on the Discovery Channel and all those wonderful things to get you ready for your trip to New Jersey. I'm talking about Nick Kelly. Hey, Nick. How are you?
I'm good, Pat. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So have you seen any of those that I mentioned? Goodfellas, obviously Sopranos, Carlo's Bakery, whatever that show is my wife watches, Jersey Shore, any of those. Have you seen them all?
It's been a minute since Jersey Shore, but I have seen Goodfellas, and actually the timing of this couldn't have been better because I literally am watching The Sopranos for the first time.
What?
And I know it. Well, I'm very, very late to it, but I'm finally watching it for the first time. And actually the timing couldn't be better because I have one episode left and I kind of now think I might wait to watch it until I'm actually in New Jersey this week. I feel like that'd be more fitting.
That would be.
Yeah, I think I might do that. So it couldn't have asked for much better timing. So,
all right. So enough of the Chamber of Commerce talk of Newark, New Jersey. Let's talk about this Alabama basketball team. Hard-fought victory yesterday against St. Mary's. Your takeaways from that game in which they became the first team in 105 games to score 80 points on the Gales.
Yeah, I think there was a real chip on the shoulder, if you will, Pat. I mean, they seemed to be a team that wanted to prove folks that questioned how tough Alabama was, questioned if they could play this more rugged style of basketball, if they could match what St. Mary's wanted to do and what they do in terms of slowing the game down, winning on the glass, just all these types of things that maybe we don't think of Alabama as doing as much of because Alabama is so fast and so up tempo, so offensive, so high scoring, exciting plays that it's okay. How is Alabama going to match up with that? And I think these players for Alabama really took that personally and really took that in the case of okay, how do we prove to the world that we are a team that can win in multiple ways and we are tough. Just because we score points doesn't mean that we can't do that. So I think that was Alabama's mindset going into the game, and they showed they can do it. And there's some tough blue-collar plays made from the types of Grant Nelson or LeBaron Philon, Mo Diabate, just the guys that really bring that extra oomph to this team. And so, yeah, I think it was a statement. It really was in a similar way to what Grand Canyon, that game a year ago. I mean, that was a rock fight, right, in Spokane, and Alabama stepped up with that, and Mo Diabate especially. So, yeah, we've seen Alabama play that rugged style now and kind of prove it to us. And now we'll see if they can play that up tempo again against BYU.
Mo's going home. Wants that chopped cheese. Are you going to go with him when you get to town?
I mean, I'm tempted. I haven't had one before, so I think I might need to tag along for that ride.
Yeah, that stuff's viral. That guy that made it, I already forgot his name, but I used to sit and watch those videos over and over and over.
Really?
I didn't know. Then evidently, it's a big thing around there. Yeah.
Mm. All right, so let's kind of break down this Alabama team right now through the first two rounds. In your opinion, what gives you maybe a pause on them advancing past BYU, and what's the one area that you believe that they've got working right now and it should not be a problem against the Cougars?
Yeah, I think the thing that gives me the biggest pause is what is Mark Sears going to be, and what do they need him to be? To me, the best version of Mark Sears is when he's not only creating offense for others, as he's doing right now, and that he's not only making some plays that maybe don't show up on the scoreboard, or the stat sheet, I should say, but the Mark Sears that also is making big shots, that's making those threes that, frankly, makes Alabama one of the best teams in the country. Because when Mark Sears is doing that, this Alabama team is downright scary because you're getting efforts from other guys like a Cliff Morey who's getting dunk after dunk. And then you have the Grant Nelsons who are making plays in their own way. But when Mark Sears is joining in and he's shooting the way that he can and is shown that he can, I mean, this is a tough team to stop, and they haven't really needed that yet from him, but they might, especially if they're going to end up playing Duke in the Elite Eight. Because you look at what Mark has done in the postseason in his threes. I had him he was 42% a year ago in that Final Four run. I think he was 20 for 48. This year he's, I believe, 6 for 33. Or at least, I think that number's a little different because I tweeted that out at halftime, but he's about 18% in the postseason this year. And that's similar to what he was, I'm sorry, I flipped that around. He's 12% this year. In 2023, he was closer to 18%. So, yeah, when Mark Shears is hitting big shots like he can, I mean, this Alabama team can be just downright impossible to stop, but he's not right now. So I think that could slow him down. But in terms of what is working, Pat, I mean, you look at Cliff Amore. I mean, he's not missing many shots. He's imposing his will. If they can keep getting this Cliff Amore moving into future games, that's going to bode well for Alabama's chances of winning in the paint.
To that point with Cliff, what has it been the last couple of weeks? You saw it, I think, really kind of going back to the Auburn game when I think, what is it, 8 for 8 from the field, something like that, with 7 dunks, and it's really he's been that efficient on the glass on the offensive side ever since. And what's been the big difference with getting him even more involved here over the stretch?
Yeah, I think some of it could just be finally he's figuring out how best to play in the system. I mean, it's very different than what he played at Rutgers. Right. And what's asked of him is very different than what was asked of him at Rutgers. And plus, I mean, you got to be in some fantastic shape to be able to play in this offense and for this team because they move up and down the court so much. And so, yeah, I think it requires a lot more and took some time to adjust. And I think we're finally seeing him not only being familiar with the system, but really being comfortable in it and comfortable enough to be able to thrive. And also it can be matchup based to an extent too, of who they're facing and what opportunities present themselves. But I think it's just a perfect storm of, hey, Cliff is finally getting to that point that he's comfortable mixed with certain matchups that bode well for them to use him.
Generally speaking, and I think that's an excellent point you just said, and you could make the statement for any player on any team. Is that one thing in this new transfer portal era in your mind that we undersell sometimes is how long it may take the guys coming in to fit a new scheme, to fit the new team, to ultimately maximize the value they bring on the court?
Yeah, no doubt. I think it comes down to, okay, how similar is the system that you play in to where you're coming from and what's asked of you? Because if it is a similar system, if you are asked to do similar things that you did in the school before, I mean, that can be fairly plug and play. But if it is a lot different, and that's why Cliff came to Alabama, is he wanted to be in more of an NBA system and get him better prepared for the NBA. So it was going to take different things from him, and he knew that coming in. So it wasn't a surprise. But I think that, yeah, it can take time. And so sometimes some of these guys coming in will just need that time and need that patience, and you're seeing that play out with Cliff.
Nick Kelly joins us from AL.com, covers the University of Alabama, joins us on the Higginbotham hotline here on Three Man Front. I saw you tweet out a couple of days ago. Actually, it was right before the tournament got started, because you see all these people nationally, they believe that they know so much about basketball, and they start putting this general terminology on Alabama basketball about, yes, they like to go fast, but they don't shoot the 3-point shot very well. And you were quick on social media to kind of point out the 3 areas that Alabama's offensive, I guess their philosophy, where the 3-point shot is way down what Nate Oates wants from this offense. For those that might be tuning us in from the Salt Lake City area, trying to get an understanding about this basketball team, kind of remind them that this is not a team that's predicated on the 3-point shot.
Yeah, Alabama wants shots in this order: free throws, layups, and threes. That's the most efficient you can get. I mean, free throws, of course, are the most efficient because they're not contested, right? And then layups are also one of the higher percentage shots. So it's a very efficient shot to take. Of course, if it's uncontested, it's even easier, but even contested, that's a fairly efficient shot. And then threes. So yeah, like they want to take threes, but it's not that they're trying to set up their entire offense to hit threes. And I think that's the biggest misconception, is that they hit threes when the opportunities present themselves, or they attempt threes, but that's not necessarily the shot they want to take more than anything else. And really, this team relies on threes the least of, I think, any of Nate Oates' teams. I don't have the stat right in front of me, but of any of his teams that he's had at Alabama, in terms of when you look at point distribution. I mean, they are right now, in terms of just what they rely on point-wise, it's 46% from two, and that's 33% from three. Now that's relatively high, meaning that's still like I think a top 114 in the country for threes compared to point distribution, but still like that's not. Hey, they're in the top 5. Like, they need these threes. Now, does it make life easier? Sure. I mean, that's 3 points for you instead of 2. But Alabama does not have to make threes to win. Does it make life easier? Yes. But they do not have to have them to win. I think that's the biggest misconception that continues to persist throughout every season.
Nick, let's take a global look here at the SEC, right? So you've seen all these teams play, 7 of them advancing to the Sweet 16. Put on your crystal ball. What do you think we're talking about next Monday morning when it comes to the SEC?
I think you're going to see at least 2 in the Final Four, if not more. I think that's not that crazy. I think it's very possible. And frankly, I think in my bracket, I predicted Auburn. I predicted Florida to be, and I think at Tennessee as well. So that 3 of my 4 in my bracket, not that, I mean, as poorly as it's gone for me, maybe that's a bad sign, but that's what I predicted for the SEC, and I think it's going to continue because you can discuss the depth and how good or bad it isn't, but to me, the top of the SEC is bar none the best in the country in terms of top talent and top teams go. So yeah, I'm taking these SEC teams. The only team that I think can really challenge these SEC teams that are at the top of the conference is Duke, and unfortunately for Alabama, likely we'll have to face Duke in the Elite Eight. So, yeah, Duke's maybe the only team that can get in the way of that. But, I mean, it's very possible we see, if not 2, maybe 3. Is it possible for 4 to be in the Final Four? Like, it's not entirely impossible.
No, it's going to be crazy. There's no doubt about it. With 7 teams now in the Sweet 16. Let me ask you about the transfer portal. Not that you could predict anything at all as it opened up in college basketball, but when the dust does settle on this season one way or another, how much churn on this roster do you think Alabama basketball is going to have to deal with? And that also goes with guys that are going to take an opportunity to maybe play in the NBA.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of churn, and that's okay. I mean, that's the nature of what it's become. I mean, I think Dan Hurley said that 50% of his roster was talking to other teams, and he said that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for Alabama's sake, it starts with, we know the guys who are gone, right? The guys who will have expired eligibility: Mark Sears, Grant Nelson, Cliff Amore, and Chris Youngblood, which, I mean, those are 4 starters. So that already means they're going to have a very different starting lineup next year. And then you look at, okay, who could go to the NBA? I think Laverne Philon is the top of that list. I'll be very surprised if he's back, just because I think that he's gotten to a point where he's probably going to be a first-round pick, and I think the advice would be to him to go out for the draft. So I would be surprised if he's back, just because he's got a prime opportunity in front of him. And then from there, who knows? I mean, it's hard to predict because money's at play, different schools are different things, but I think you'll see some of the guys come back that can. I think you'll see some who can't come back, or who can come back won't come back. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the chips fall that way. But I wouldn't worry too much about Alabama long term. Yeah, they'll lose some guys, but they'll also get some guys too. They're going to be very active in the portal, just like they have in the last couple of years.
All right, Nick, final question, and it has to do with Nate Oates. It appears that the University of Texas is close to officially naming Sean Miller as the next head coach. There was one report that came out yesterday that said that Texas had kicked the tires on Nate Oates, but they did not get very far. Do you think Nate Oates is in Tuscaloosa 2 years from now, 5 years from now? What kind of shelf life does Nate Oates have in Tuscaloosa?
That's the big question, and I can't give you a conclusive answer, Pat, but I will say this. I think at this point, because he did not take Kentucky, I would be surprised if he were to take another college job. It's not impossible. Never say never, but I will be surprised if he were to leave Alabama for another college job. I think at this point, the thought is that the NBA will be next for him. Whether that's next year, whether it's in 5 years, I don't know. But I do think that the NBA is the most likely next step for Nate. And I'm not alone in that. People I talk to think similar things that are in the know. And so, yeah, again, you can never predict with 100% certainty what's going to happen, but I would be surprised if his next step is not the NBA.
That is Nick Kelly, outstanding coverage of the Alabama athletics program on AL.com. Always friendly with his time to join us here on Three Man Front. Hate that you're not going to be able to stop by Social Taco tomorrow, but I understand that you will be in the air heading to Newark. So you got
the chopped cheese.
Yeah, you got big plans once you get there. Give us your itinerary. What's going on?
I mean, I have a few good pals who live out there, so I am excited about that. More just to see some friends, but yeah, I'm Pat. If I was not in the air, I'd be at Social Taco tomorrow.
Okay,
So.
I'm just making sure. I mean, the salsa is great, and cheese dip's fantastic, and it's just the people. I mean, because every time you're there, I mean, outside of Landrum beating off people signing autographs, it's people want to get next to Nick Kelly, especially Don. So appreciate that.
I don't know about that, but yeah, Landrum with all those autograph seekers might need like a Cedric Burns, like who's always helping Nick Saban over the years. Maybe get Landrum that. I don't want to tell you guys what to do with your show, but I think he might need that.
No, you know what? I think he would welcome that, to be honest with you. I mean, because he has to beat him off with a stick with all these people that wants to, take selfies and whatnot. But hey, Nick, all kidding aside, have a safe trip to Newark, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you. That is Nick Kelly from AL.com. Covers the Alabama Crimson Tide. He joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. Great conversation with Nick Kelly. We've already talked to Mike Gittins from the War Report. You can download the Three Man Front podcast if you missed any of those interviews in their entirety. This is Three Man Front on Reaction Monday, Jocks 94.5. Where were you 20 years ago tonight, Ryan Haney?
Watching The Office.
That's right. 20 years ago tonight on NBC, The Office debuted. Your favorite episode off the top of your head?
Probably the one where Dwight talks about Mose not being the same after the storm and he's howling and there's an open outhouse and Mose is out there. I thought Mose Schrute was hilarious. And I didn't realize till you a couple months ago.
He was one of the writers.
He was one of the writers.
Yep, he was one of the main writers.
That's
for
probably
the
one
Office.
that sticks out the most.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Well, Variety, they have just listed their top 20 episodes in the history of The Office. And according to the Hollywood, I guess it's still a magazine or a website, whatever you want to say now, the number one episode happened in season 4. It was episode 13. Now, if Conrad was here, Conrad is
would know it.
Conrad is just a diehard Office fan. So I hate that he's not here, but he's still being suspended. So he'll be back tomorrow. Season 4, episode 13. This episode is what happens when you give geniuses the chance to play peak cringe comedy. As the evening's planned events unfold, dinner charades, and a tour of Jan's at-home candle business, we peel back the layers of dysfunction in Michael and Jan's relationship. You remember this one?
Yes.
Initially, the writers were worried it was too dark and asked Carell to lighten it up a little bit, leading to a brilliant snip, snap description of the multiple vasectomies that he had. The episode entitled Dinner Party features some of the most hilarious scenes of the entire series, including Michael showing off his tiny plasma television in one of the best uses of a pan out ever. Jan dancing with Jim's limp arm, and Michael describing his wine as having an oaky afterbirth. It's an also squirm introducing by in the end, it feels like we've been stewing in the discomfort for as long as Jan's Osobuco.
So where would you put from, kind of the last glory days, if you will, of the network comedies, right? The Office was there. I thought Parks and Rec was there. Modern Family, I thought was absolutely hysterical. Everything's kind of gone streaming wise, but where would you, is The Office, if you had to name your top 2 or 3 over the last 10 to 20 years as an adult comedies that you've enjoyed on network TV?
It would have to be number 1.
Office would.
For me. I was a Seinfeld fan.
Yeah.
I was not so much a Friends fan.
Mm-hmm.
But now The Office is right up there. I mean, Parks and Rec up there as well, because it's the same type genre, same type of writers. It is amazing because your kids are a little bit younger than mine, but when they've been around the house and me and Leanne have been watching The Office, the thing that strikes me is that how today's young people, they have been programmed a certain way in which some of these jokes that are told in these older episodes would never fly now on network television, because there would be picketing out in front of the networks, and certain movements would try to get the network shut down, because my kids will walk through the room and they'll stop and they'll look and go, did they really say that like on regular TV?
Yeah, that's why that's what I was getting at. The Office, Modern Family, they had some jokes and double entendres and stuff that really pressed the line that you could not do today, I don't think.
No, not a chance. I mean, I was reading an article over the weekend, and it was detailing that there was one episode of The Office, and I won't go into detail, and you might know the one I'm referring to. It was when there was a school group that came along to Dunder Mifflin on a field trip, and Michael decided that he was going to, I think it was around Halloween, and that he was going to try to scare the kids as they were in the building. And so let's just say that there were certain things that he did in the episode that it only aired one time. Like you can't even get it on DVD or anything else, because the network, once it aired, we cannot air this again. I think you remember the episode that I was referring to. Those type things would not even happen now at all. And so that's why I think that was part of the brilliance.
Yeah.
I mean, it would piss off any group. I mean, it didn't cater to one specific group. I mean, it made fun of everybody. And that's what made it, to me, just really one of the most outstanding comedies ever written.
Well said.
So 20 years ago today.
Wow.
It's hard to believe it was 20
old.
years ago.
Yeah, it really is.
And meanwhile, Molly's like going, what are y'all talking about?
No, I know The Office.
Your parents, I'm sure, watch The Office.
I think so.
But The Office is still one of those when you're going through YouTube TV or whatever, and the reruns are on, I'll stop and watch. Same with Modern Family, same way with Parks and Rec.
The Office is one of those shows that sometimes when I'm on a flight and they have the free shows, I'll usually watch it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I had never seen Parks and Rec. I'd always heard about how funny it was. I just really don't think I'd ever seen it. And when COVID happened and we were stuck at home forever, and we had a lot of downtime, because there weren't any sports going on. Watched all 7 seasons.
Wow.
Got into it. Yeah. Fell in love with it. Thought it was hilarious.
It's just crazy that it's been 20 years since The Office debuted. So just thought we'd bring a little bit of levity to this Sweet 16 talk. We've spent a lot of time detailing what's going on with Auburn and Alabama. UAB also got a big win last night on the hardwood out in California. They will now take on UC Irvine in the quarterfinals of the NIT. That game can be heard over on Jocks 2 100.5. That is an 8 o'clock tip-off, 7:30 pregame show from the West Coast. So UAB flew out there on Friday, played last night, and they will go 6 hours south. So they're staying in the state of California. I'm sure there'll be some good golf played by DC.
Right.
And Andy Kennedy as they get ready to take on UC Irvine in the NIT. When we come back on Three Man Front, does Dan Hurley have a point? Did his team get screwed in their game yesterday? If you don't know the controversy, we'll fill you in, but Dan Hurley is not going quietly into the night. We'll talk about that next. Sweet 16, your calls, your texts. This is Three Man Front on Jocks 94.5. I'm sure Dan Hurley thinks this song is about him, right? You know, we played some Mick Cronin from earlier. He was always a must-see after one of UCLA's basketball games this year. Dan Hurley never disappoints. So, setting this up, if you're on social media, you probably saw this last night on your feed. It was a video of Dan Hurley walking off the court right after their loss to Florida. And he turns his head and he is videoed saying something to the Baylor coaches. Now, what you're about to hear is a television report about that specific video and a little dust-up that happened with the University of Connecticut media department or the sports information department with the reporter and the station. Take a listen.
That's the video that's gone viral online of UConn head coach Dan Hurley voicing his displeasure with the referees and the Huskies' loss to the #1 ranked Florida Gators. Charlotte Sports Live's own Joey Ellis took that video and then was confronted by UConn Director of Communications Bobby Mullen. Mullen asked for that video that had gone viral to be removed. He then threatened Joey, saying he would, quote, ruin his life if he didn't. This was heard by multiple other reporters and staff on hand. Our management asked Mullen for a statement on the incident, and here's what he said. The lasting image of Coach Hurley leaving the court should have been his walking off the court arm in arm with the seniors, overwhelmed with emotion. Instead, a reporter who was in an area he should not have been recorded on his cell phone a private comment made to members of another coaching staff, end quote. Charlotte Sports Live and Queen City News stand by Joey Ellis's reporting.
First off, that was not a private comment to a coach. He was walking away and he said it loud enough to where somebody could capture it on your cell phone. And then they're saying that that specific reporter was not supposed to be where he was. Listen, I have covered a million of these events, and I promise you, whether it was before 9/11 or after 9/11, that security is always extremely tight, at especially NCAA events, okay? Like if you're not supposed to be in a certain location, I promise you, you're not going to be there. I mean, it's tight. You've covered them too, Ryan. Mm-hmm. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And so for them to come back and say, first off, the guy, you know, is recording something that was a private conversation, that's BS. It was not a private conversation at all. If you've seen the video, you heard what we just played. He basically said that his team got screwed, except he used more colorful language than that. And he said it 2 or 3 times. That was the bleeps you heard. So basically insinuating that, you know, his team got screwed and that they should have beat Florida. It had nothing to do with the fact that, you know, his team could not hit shots down the stretch. And again, that last 3-pointer made the game look a whole heck of a lot closer and probably messed up a lot of parlays out there.
Well, yeah, right, because the overhead. But first off, UConn played a hell of a game, right? They controlled the majority of that game. Florida came back. Last few minutes, they won that. That's what the difference was. I think the biggest thing for me is I thought what Hurley said and in the way he handled himself in the CBS interview was really well done. And that's not going to get any play because of the other comment. What you got to realize is, look, we're a headline society. Look at the reliance on social media. We're a soundbite society. We're a gotcha society. I'm not saying I agree with it or it's right, and that's not defending Dan Hurley in any way, but if you've got that kind of pedestal, heck, if you're the 3 of us and you're out and about, you got to be careful, because with these cell phones, man, people are looking for that next thing, because what's the word? Something goes viral. You've seen people get rich, like that dumb girl in Nashville, in the crypto scam and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just a different time we're living in. He knows better than that. It's okay to be frustrated, but the officiating didn't lose him that game.
No.
And his team played their butts off, man. Like, they got Florida in the game they wanted for the majority of that game. I understand being frustrated as an 8 seed, having to play Florida first, same way with Gonzaga, all these different things. It's just the randomness of the tournament. Yeah, some teams get better draws than others. There's no rhyme or reason to it. They've got their formula. But to me, that comment now overshadows everything good that was done, and that was his team's effort, and really the classy comments I thought he had with the CBS reporter after the game.
So he had those comments with Tracy Wolfson. which obviously he was very emotional in regards to his team. And of course, 13 in a row that they had won an NCAA tournament play that had gone by the wayside. But this is what you're about to hear now is him meeting with the media. Now, this is probably a good, oh my goodness, probably 20, 25 minutes after the game has concluded. So he's kind of, regathered himself up and take a listen to some bizarre statements he makes about why his UConn team played as poorly as they did this year.
I didn't even, I would say going into the year, there's a lot, of, rewiring and things I got to do in the off season, because you just get caught up in this tidal wave of success that we've had, and you just you lose perspective. You struggle with the ego at times because you've been on this incredible run. So it'll be nice to get to a normal off season and just get back to myself as a coach and not have to throw out first pitches. And you should only be ringing stock market bells and throwing out first pitches when you win the major championship. So, I won't have to do things like that. I'll be able to just kind of, focus on the upcoming season, make better decisions with all aspects of coaching.
I've never heard Nick Saban, after he won a couple of national championships back to back, and when his team did not win a third, him make excuses of playing golf at the Regions Pro-Am or being the starter at Talladega or building a house for Knicks kids. Never heard him make excuses why his team did not win a national championship. To make an excuse that you didn't win because you were throwing out first pitches at the New York Yankees games, or he was ringing the Wall Street bell to get NASDAQ open. Are you kidding me?
Well, you could have answered the word pretty easy, and it's what we talked about earlier with teams, and even like when everybody's go, oh my God, what's wrong with Auburn and all this complacency, man. How you tell a bunch of kids making all this money and the coach and all this, it's complacency. It's hard. I mean, it is hard for anybody to repeat anything. He should have ended it there, because it started off with, my opinion, is a great quote. And then it got sidetracked. I mean, it's a near impossible task to do. And I do think, again, I think it's all how he answered it. I do think there probably is some part of it, okay, some relief. As much as you wanted to win that third one, it's over. Now you're starting over again. I think that's sincere. I just think it was how it was said and maybe some of the other stuff that puts off, again, the wrong vibe, that the real message gets lost. And I think that's what bothers people about Hurley.
So he turns down the Los Angeles Lakers job so he can come back to UConn and win one tournament game.
I mean, he'll be back. He's going to, I mean, you also turn down the Los Angeles Lakers job because the head coach plays. I mean, they drafted his son because he wanted him drafted.
Right.
He may not be the head coach entitled, but who runs the show in LA? Is Dan Hurley going to go tell LeBron James what to do?
No.
Of course not.
Okay.
I having, as you mentioned, if he would have shut his mouth after about the first 10 or 15 seconds, I think he would have been fine.
Yeah.
But then when you go down the road of talking
it's
about,
the mentioning of the throwing out the first pitch and ringing the bell, just
say no. Don't do it.
We won 2 in a row. We got a lot of guys doing well in NIL. We brought some guys over. We got the guy from St. Mary's over. Didn't work out like we hoped to. All these things, and you're fighting complacency. You've won 2 in a row. Everybody tells you how great you are. You're on the cover of everything. That's a real thing.
And he
just
gets
say I didn't do a good job of handling the expectations based off where we had been the last 2 years.
He gets compensated royally.
Correct.
To be the head basketball coach at UConn. So cry me a river.
Now, I will say this. The other side of that is him starting there and making it about him and all those things takes the heat off his team too. And what's his job now that they're eliminated? You touched on this earlier. Probably trying to keep a lot of those kids there.
Yeah.
Now, he'll be like everybody else. He'll bring some kids in, but there's probably some ones that he wants to keep around there. And if you go this world we're living in now and proceed to throw them under the bus, we've seen people leave state schools here and go to other ones because they got their feelings hurt. I mean, it happens.
Yep. So Dan Hurley, never disappointing.
It just comes across a certain way.
Yeah, and then now you've got a sports information guy that is basically threatening to ruin somebody's career.
That's wild.
I mean,
well, look, I feel bad for this.
Look,
he shouldn't have said it. But for the sports information, the responsibility they have probably conversely with what they get paid comparatively to these coaches and what they say, they have to always clean up the mess and do what's he going to say? That's his job, is to come up with the spin. You know, I feel bad for him being even put in that position. Think about having to come behind that. That'd be tough.
No, it'd be real tough. 1-800-239-WJOX, the Courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450. Fresh off his trip to the Beau Rivage, I believe, and all the places down in the Biloxi Gulf Coast. Don joins us now on Three-Man Front. Hey, Don.
Hey, Pat. Hello, Ryan. How are you, buddy?
Did you? I'm confused. Are you back in Homewood?
No. It was. We actually stayed at Harris, not Beau Rivage.
Okay. Well, I figured that you won so much money this weekend that you decided that that you were in Cancun or somewhere else.
No. That's Father's thing for the trip. I don't think anybody in those casinos. They all had Auburn because of me and my dumb mouth, and they all had Alabama too. So no, nobody wanted going.
So how much did you win? How much did you lose coming home?
I probably, you know what? I won some games, Pat and guys. And I tell you what, I was just telling Molly, I've never seen so many Nebraska people in a room in my life Saturday night. My goodness, man!
Why? Why was Nebraska folks? Why were Nebraska fans in Biloxi?
They were Creighton fans from Nebraska. But
I'm sorry.
Football.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah, but Pat,
did you tell him you knew Molly?
Well, yeah, I did tell him about Molly. I was bragging on Molly to him and everything, and they go and the guys and everything go. Oh, Nebraska's got a great dance team. Yes, they did, and everything. They're beautiful little girls. I said, yes, my buddy Molly. My buddy Molly fits right in. She's a nice young lady, and I brag and I told him how good you are at your job. I said, you remember that name, Molly Robinson. She's going to be at ESPN. Laura Rutledge Jr.
There you go.
Thanks, Don.
Oh, you're welcome. You're very welcome. No, but no, Pat, I tell you, buddy, and like I texted you the other day, and everybody's going to be included in this. I got us hooked up, my friend. DraftKings at the Golden Nugget. And especially the guy, Brian, and he's probably, I told him to listen today. Brian's the manager of the book at Harris. And I'm going to give you all the information because they want, Ryan, they want to work with jocks. The DraftKings at the Golden Nugget, I got that information in the Harris, Caesar Sports book at Harris in Biloxi. So we'll talk about that tomorrow.
Sounds great. Happy early birthday, Don. We're planning a birthday celebration for you at Social Taco tomorrow.
Well, I got to tell you something, Pat. PG and BB are scaring me, man. They got a lot of stuff up their sleeve. I'm not. I've already told. I went by there today to warn them about a crowd because you know that we got a Stallions event too. So I believe we're going to have the best crowd we've ever had there.
Well, I tell you what, you should be concerned because, you know, BB and PG both were at our remote and they were huddled up in the corner with Molly and Molly was giving them some ideas for tomorrow. So you better beware. Yep. This is going to be some crazy stuff tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm not allowed to come. I told the people at Social Taco today, if I try to sneak in, do not let me come in after 11:30. So I know the drill.
Okay.
Everything, and there's a lot of people coming. Okay, but so I talked to Heather today, Pat, and she can't. I don't think she can come today and everything. But there's a lot of Stallions promotional news. They're actually going to use what's the place at the Pennant called, the sports bar?
Ramblers. Yes.
That's their new watch party venue.
All right. That sounds fantastic. Well, Don, listen, we always appreciate it. We look forward to you buying a lot of drinks tomorrow because you won so much money down at Beau Rivage. What?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Birthday boy ain't supposed to buy nothing.
No, overseas, that's what happens. People, it's just in the United States that they do that. I mean, overseas, it's your birthday, so you're supposed to. I know in Germany for a fact because a sweet young lady named Kelsey who cuts my hair in Trussville, she has German ancestry, and she goes to Germany a lot, and she says at birthday time in Germany, if it's your birthday, you are supposed to buy dinner for your family. It's not the other way around.
Well, this is Homewood, Alabama, not Germany, okay? And if I was playing golf and made a hole in one, yeah, the drinks would be on me.
Okay. All right.
Well, Don, how's your
never have to worry about me making a hole in one, okay?
is your Final Four still intact?
Yeah, but I'm. You know what? I heard your conversation with FSU Dave the other day. God bless him, man. He won't admit it, Pat, but he hates this. He's saying, okay, he won't admit it. But I get me and PG get bombarded by him on a text group. Everything. Anytime somebody SEC loses, he's got to let us know about it. Okay.
Well, I think FSU Dave is a great human being, and he will be there tomorrow.
Yeah, I saw him last Thursday out at Twin Peaks. I enjoyed my time with FSU Dave.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah, no. FSU Dave's a great guy.
Why do you hate FSU Dave, Don? I just don't understand.
Don't you start that. I do not hate FSU Dave. He's a good guy.
Okay, I'm sorry.
See what he does. Well, no, Pat. At least you're not as bad as Damien twisting my words.
That's true. Damien is a twister of words. Yes.
All right, guys. Well, thank y'all so much, and can't wait to see everybody tomorrow.
Thank you, Don. Happy birthday. Mm-hmm. Happy early birthday. That's tomorrow. I understand you might be making an appearance. That's the rumor.
I'm going to try. I got to run down to Regents Field.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Come out.
Suit duties.
Hold on. First off, we're like at half staff all week.
Whose fault is that?
Not mine. I am off this Friday, by the way.
Oh, there we go. People love it when you're not here.
I'm going to Thailand.
Oh, fun.
For the weekend.
Sorry, it's Don. No, I am off Friday. But no, I do have to go to the Barons, check something. That starts next week. My intent is to be there. I'm going to do everything I can do there, but I got to leave early afternoon because I got an event to go to.
Yeah, you're speaking at the University of Alabama.
I got something at Alabama late tomorrow afternoon.
Oh.
So it's kind of a busy day.
Big time.
Very busy day. All right. Coming up at the top of the hour, rumor has it that the suspended Conrad Van Order is going to call us and give us his thoughts on Alabama's dominating performance over the weekend, and that he has already purchased tickets to the Final Four in San Antonio, that he is ready to go.
He looked like he was going to cry in that video. I mean, did he really think they'd lose to St. Mary's? I mean, like, I was watching it last night, and I was like, I mean, did he go into that thinking they were going to lose to the Bolshevik Revolution or whatever that guy was, whatever his name was?
I mean, he is all over the place emotionally right now.
His
wife is in second place in our office bracket.
She's smarter than him.
Don't even bring up Buckyball. Can't around him.
Yeah, it's kind of a sticky subject. All right, we got a break. Come back, more three-man front. This is Jocks 94.5. On this Reaction Monday, this is Three Man Front, Jocks 94.5, 1-800-239-WJOX, 205-834-9450. Landrum Roberts, he was on the first hour of the program. He did the morning show. Mac and Cube is off this week, so he was filling in on the morning show this morning, joining me and Molly for about an hour. The suit, Ryan Haney, in with us until 2 o'clock. We hope to hear from a suspended member of Three Man Front, Conrad Van Order. He is going to call us in about 5 minutes or so. We'll get his thoughts on the Alabama Crimson Tide. So was he wearing the beanie in the video?
Yes.
He was. Mm-hmm. Looked all sweaty.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably needs to clean it, but he probably doesn't want to. It's probably bad luck.
Probably so. Kind of like that Tua jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, that thing smells. Ugh.
So what did you think about the Washington Nationals City Connect jerseys that came out yesterday?
I didn't care for them.
Really?
They're okay.
Okay.
Are you excited? I mean, it doesn't seem like there's this big buzz for Major League Baseball. Is it because all the networks are kicking them off?
I mean, you know.
I mean, seriously, it's like weird.
I mean, it's okay. Networks kick them off. The Braves Radio Network on the
Right
Jocks family station.
Listen here.
That's right. You know, need to go and buy 17 million subscriptions. Just listen to Jocks for free.
The National, there's nothing good about the Nationals. It is what it is right now. Hasn't been since.
But spring. What's the word or what's the saying?
Hope springs eternal.
Yeah, hope springs eternal.
Yeah. You really think the Nationals are going to compete with the Braves, the Mets, and the Phillies?
No.
Okay.
I was just.
It is Bob Carpenter's last year to bring the Cardinals stuff. He did announce that. I do like Bob.
Bob's a good dude. He got his start with the St. Louis Cardinals.
Of course he did.
A lot of great broadcasters started with the St. Louis Cardinals.
I guess that's an opinion.
Harry Carey, Jack Buck, Joe Buck, Bob Carpenter.
And the best ones left.
We have one more hour to go. This is Three Man Front on Jocks 94.5. It is the beginning of hour number 4 of 3-Man Front on this Reaction Monday. Appreciate you tuning us in on this kind of a rainy start to the week. Supposed to be beautiful the rest of the week. Thanks for tuning us in here on Jocks 94.5. Great radio stations like the up in Huntsville and Jocks 740 in Montgomery, Alabama. Landry Roberts, Conrad Van Order will be back with us tomorrow. Well, actually, I don't know if Conrad will be back because he's going to be working on the morning show, but he joins us now on the Higginbotham hotline. Conrad, I hope you're doing well. More importantly, I hope your wife, Paige, is doing well.
Thank you, Pat. Yeah, I was going to say you probably should have had her call into the show and talk a little bit because she's been killing it with the bracket.
Yeah, she's currently number 2. There's 68 brackets in our bracket pool, and your wife is currently in second place. So I know you're proud of your wife.
Yes. I am very proud of her. I'm very proud, as is Bucky.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I kind of...
Well, the namesake of the bracket.
Yeah, of course. I was watching your video after yesterday, and you really seemed like relieved. I mean, were you worried about that one at all yesterday?
Yeah, definitely going into it, I was worried just because the styles of play is so different. I guess polar opposites, really, for how St. Mary's played. And
sure.
I mean, even going in, they're not the best offensive team, but I don't think you ever counted on them to be that bad in the first half, and that really kind of allowed Alabama to pull away because, I mean, they didn't play great in the first half with the turnovers and things like that. But, no, I mean, I think, a 14-point win over St. Mary's was solid. But, yeah, going in, a little nervous and definitely just after how the Robert Morris game went, that being closer than expected it. Think made you a little nervous.
It seems like just talking to fans, you got friends all over the place like I do, and everybody likes their team or whatever. Everybody just almost, it seems like they exhaled because you get, made it to the next weekend, right? And that's all you want to do. You just want to hope you can make it. And then this next weekend, okay, cool. Well, if we can win 2 more, then we make it to San Antonio. Then if Team XYZ, whatever makes it, all bets are off. Just go win it. So it really is interesting to see how stressed really most fans, I think, were of the second game. Not just in your situation. I mean, Auburn, it was okay. Auburn was a better team than Creighton, but they've had their struggles. There's a lot of people apprehensive about that too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you just, you didn't have a ton of upsets in the first round maybe, and so you got those better matchups in the second round that maybe made teams a little more nervous than you would normally have in other years. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. You look at, some of those games and then you look at, I guess maybe some of the more unexpected things like, Ole Miss beating Iowa State maybe wasn't an upset, but them, clobbering on being up 25 in those kinds of situations, you're just kind of, I don't know, taken off guard by that. But yeah, I mean, when you look at, Maryland, Florida, it was a tough second round for a lot of these teams. And I think a lot of it is just, you had a lot of the favorites win. And like Landrum predicted, I guess we have to give him his credit. Chalk has held for a large part of the tournament so far.
Well, let's not give him props yet. He's got 4 SEC teams in the Final Four.
Yeah,
Does he really?
I know. Yeah, that's true.
I think I have 3.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I know I have 3. And I didn't like that. I still don't necessarily like that. But I thought the SEC was the best conference, and we'll see.
Well, 7 teams in the Sweet 16 so far, best conference.
Yeah, for sure.
So does BYU give you heartburn at all? Do you think this will be a track meet and Alabama wins easily?
I'm not going to say that I think Alabama will win, easy. Anytime you get to this point in the tournament, the teams are all really good, and BYU is one of the better offensive teams. I know they score about 10 points a game on average, less than Alabama does. But, yeah, I mean, this is a game, I think if you're Alabama, you're going to need to see guys hitting shots. This is a game where you would like to see, Mark Sears start hitting some threes again because that's been a struggle for him the last handful of games now. And, BYU certainly a team that's capable of beating Alabama if they don't play their best game. But I think, you saw defensively and, being aggressive on the glass with the rebounding, the fact they only had 3 turnovers in the second half against St. Mary's yesterday. I think if you carry those things forward and, you just get a little bit of a better shooting night from some of your guards, Alabama shouldn't have a problem, right? They're the better team going into this game, but yeah, BYU can certainly put up some points.
All right, so how about Auburn? I know people will take whatever you say about Auburn with a grain of salt because you're such a Bama homer. But your thoughts on what they did this weekend in Lexington?
No, I mean, I was honestly, with the way that the Creighton game ended, and I know that game was close for a large part of it, especially in the first half. But I mean, I thought that was an impressive win for Auburn. Right? Creighton's a good team. That's a team that we're used to seeing in the tournament, and their streak of getting in and winning at least one game in the tournament, I think, was 5 years in a row. So I mean, that's a solid team that they're going to be able to shoot the three. You knew how good Kalkbrenner was going into it for him. And so I looked at that game. I know, you had to sweat it out a little bit if you're an Auburn fan, but I certainly think that was a quality win there. I thought, what you got from Dylan Cardwell, is big. If that's the Dylan Cardwell, you're going to get the rest of the way. Auburn's going to be really, really difficult to beat. And, the Alabama State game to open it up maybe wasn't what you expected, similar to Alabama and Robert Morris, but you end up winning by 20 in the first round. You survive in advance. You can live with that. But I thought the Creighton win was impressive. And now you get a Michigan team that's pretty hot right now, running through the Big Ten, winning the Big Ten tournament, and now winning a couple games here. So I think that's going to be a tough one and a late night tip that the players are going to have to be ready for.
So were you nervous that you heard yesterday afternoon that Texas was inquiring about Nate Oates for that opening? Were you worried about that?
No, because it wasn't North Carolina.
That's right. You're the one that started the rumor that he was going to North Carolina.
Okay, you don't have to mention the teams. We asked Nick Kelly this, but we're a week out. Next Monday, what are we talking about in regards to the SEC as it relates to the Final Four, as far as number of teams?
In terms of number of teams,
just off the top of your head, you're not held to it, but a week out, what do you think?
Two. I'll go two.
That's what Nick said. Yep.
So it's Alabama and
Auburn. What about y'all? Are y'all at two or y'all? Yeah, exactly. Alabama and Auburn. No, it's Tennessee and Florida. Where are y'all at? Are y'all at two? Or are you like Landrum in four?
No, in my bracket, I had 2 of the 4 were from the SEC, and the 2 that I predicted is still alive: Auburn and Tennessee.
Yeah, I had 3.
I also have 2.
Mine were Alabama, Auburn, and Florida.
Molly had Auburn and Kentucky?
No, Florida and Kentucky.
Florida and Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky's
you have
looking good.
Maryland in there, right, Pat?
I do have Maryland. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I do.
Well, that was big for you. You and my dad both.
It was huge.
Last night.
Yep. Go Turtles. It was big.
Fear the turtle. That's right.
That's right. It's huge. All right, Conrad. So will we see you at all this week? Because I know you're doing morning show stuff.
You'll see me in the handoff. And
I won't be here tomorrow. I'm at Don Don's party tomorrow.
Well,
I'm at Don Don's party.
I was about to say I am going to stop by Don Don's party tomorrow, and I'm going to see if Paige can come on her lunch break, and we're going to try to go up there for Don Don's birthday.
Oh, that's sweet. That's awfully nice.
So I will, at the very least, I will see you there.
Okay.
Well, he's got a gift list on Amazon.
Yes. Have you purchased his gift?
But we shop local though. Just his registry. Get on his registry and find something there, then shop local.
Yes.
For his gift.
Yeah, my gift's more of an in-person gift, so we'll let that be a surprise for tomorrow.
Okay, thanks, Dan Hurley.
Yeah.
Hey, have you hooked up with Brian Edwards since you've been down at the beach?
No, I have not. He went silent on me after he was taking his victory lap with those Gators, and I think he was sweating a few bullets yesterday. So no, he went silent after that, and I think he was on high alert yesterday. So no, didn't get to catch up with him, unfortunately.
All right. Well, safe travels back to the Birmingham metropolitan area, and we'll see you at Don Don's party tomorrow.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. See y'all tomorrow.
All right. That is Conrad Van Order, suspended member of Three Man Front. We just had to suspend him after Thursday's show. He was out Friday and today, but he's back tomorrow.
You suspend him so he goes to the beach.
Well, where else would he? I mean, do you think he's just going to sit at home and just
doesn't
sulk?
sound like he learned anything. I mean,
he's got a mouth on him. You notice that? Little smarty mouth.
A smarty mouth. Is that what you said to your boys when you were younger? You got a smarty mouth?
No, I use profanity.
Good. Yeah, that's how it was in my household too.
Profanity or smarty mouth?
No, profanity.
What? Somebody used profanity on Molly?
Yes.
I don't believe that.
Really? He's laughing. All right. With now, the break, you have to come clean and what you did to deserve that.
Okay.
Okay, deal.
If I can remember.
Oh, well, never mind.
I mean, I could see probably your brother.
Well, that's the thing. It wasn't towards me.
So it was friendly. Oh,
It was mainly
like
towards
friendly fire.
my sibling. Yes, I was the good kid. I was the angel of the household.
Well, this story is just suddenly not near as good as
I thought we were
be.
about to get down to some nitty gritty here.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Molly was the hellraiser.
No, I was not.
I was going to say, it's totally opposite of everything I've been told.
I was not, believe me.
Although she worked at a liquor store when she was 14.
I was 18, Pat.
Oh, sorry.
It still amazes me how that can happen. Can
I
I see your
loved
ID,
it.
please? No, I know, but like
It was
you
such
asking
a
for
fun job.
But you're asking for like a 21-year-old's ID. I didn't see. I guess state laws are different depending where you live because I didn't think you could do that.
I didn't think you could either.
So I thought at Alabama, like at one point, it may still be this way.
So what'd you do when like your teachers came in from the high school after a long day, and then they walk in and there's Molly getting ready to sell you some bourbon?
That was always my favorite whenever teachers, it was never really my teachers, but it was some teachers that worked in the school, or like the front office ladies, that sort of
Would
thing.
they look at you real funny?
They would like recognize me. Be like, do you go to Brentwood? Yes, ma'am. Just a little senior year me, just ringing up her bottle of wine or just, pint of Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was great. I loved it. Fun job.
What else did you sell there at the old liquor store? Did you sell cigarettes, cigars?
We had cigars. I don't remember cigarettes, but
you could sell anything in there. You could sell.
Yeah. I couldn't. We had like a pouring station. I couldn't do that.
Okay.
Like I couldn't serve.
Gotcha.
Open container.
Did you take the bets in the back room?
Of course.
Okay.
Man.
We had buggies too, and people would grab a buggy and fill up their cart with alcohol.
Y'all had buggies?
Yeah, it was great.
There's so many questions.
Yeah, I thought, I mean, and I don't know if it's still this way, but I know at least a couple of years ago in Alabama, you could be at a restaurant, you order a beer or cocktail or something, glass of wine. They're under 21, they couldn't bring it
Correct.
to you.
Somebody else had to bring it to you.
For me.
That's how it was. So you could ring them up, you just couldn't.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Couldn't technically serve it, but I could
Gotcha.
sell
Okay,
it.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you could sell at 14, but you couldn't serve.
Correct.
What a great country we live in.
I was not 14.
Okay, 15.
Better.
What was the job interview like?
I didn't interview.
They just handed it to you?
Pretty much.
Because you were Molly?
Well, it ran in the family. I had a cousin that worked there, and my brother worked there at one point, so.
Oh.
Yeah.
There you go.
I loved it, though. Seriously, it was a great job.
No, I could tell your enthusiasm.
Yeah,
You're excited.
it was fun.
You want to go back and
always something new going on.
Did you ever have to turn anyone away?
Me, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you ran into a problem, you'd go get.
Yes.
Okay.
Did any of your friends try to manipulate the fact that you
Now,
were...
that's a good question. Yeah.
See, no, because this was a nicer liquor store.
No. Okay, define nicer.
More upscale.
Yes, it was an
higher quality than what
yes, like we sold.
high school kids are drinking, probably. Right. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. So we had a lot of very expensive stuff. I mean, it was like, you had your bottom shelf stuff too, but a lot of nice stuff as well. I learned a lot about alcohol from working that job.
Should we have known this before? Like,
I think I did know this actually.
I'm about to say, I think I told you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I did know all this. Yeah.
I don't think I did.
It was my first job.
Mm-hmm.
We need to have a conversation about this.
What? Labor laws are different in different states.
They are.
Some people can work at 9.
I was 15, okay?
All right. That's Molly's Liquor Store Minute, brought to you by, what was the name of the place?
It's called The Grapevine.
Oh, okay.
I've actually been there.
Have you been?
I know exactly where it is
In
when she told me.
Brentwood?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a nice place, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Did you get a buggy when you were in there?
No.
He didn't need one.
No.
Did you sell lottery tickets?
No, we did not.
What?
Mm-mm.
Was that disappointing? That
Yeah.
Well, there's a gas station right next door, so you can just get them there.
Okay. All right. A little disappointed on that front, but okay. The Grapevine in Brentwood, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool Springs area.
Gotcha. By the Target?
By the Publix.
By the Publix.
Close to the Target, but it's in the same parking lot as the Publix.
I think I had to make an emergency stop for Landrum.
You know what? I think you did. I think you told me that story.
Yep. That's the parking lot from hell, by the way.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. I told him, I said, do not get excited over this taco bar before we left Nashville. And he got excited about the taco bar. And about 15 miles down the road, it was an emergency situation.
All right, finish that on their side because I know we're way behind. I want to hear about Landrum's grocery store taco bar story.
This is Three Man Front on Jocks 94.5. Welcome back in. It's Three Man Front on this Reaction Monday. Paul Feinbaum Show coming up at the top of the hour. If you missed any of our interviews today, Mike Gittins from the War Report or Nick Kelly from AL.com, you can download in its entirety the interviews with those two gentlemen breaking down the Auburn and Alabama Sweet 16. Speaking of the Auburn Tigers, Jason Caldwell, frequent visitor to this radio show, Auburn Undercover, he tweeted out last night, woof, Auburn gets an 8:39 p.m. Central tip time on Friday night in Atlanta, almost 10 p.m. local time in Atlanta. Brutal. That's what he tweeted. Well, Mark Culkin, who is a writer for one of the USC websites, he obviously he follows Jason Caldwell. He tweeted at Jason The average age of that roster is 23 and a half years old. I'm sure they can handle staying up that late.
Gotta love social media, man. I mean, it's one person going after the other.
And Jason responded to Mark Culkin and said, my talking about a game time has zero to do with the team. It's about fans and people trying to watch the game. The players will be fine.
But I would think that, see, I look at it differently. I mean, Atlanta traffic, it's going to be Friday rush hour if you're playing in that early slot. If you're an Auburn fan and you want to pack the arena, does this not give, and you're going to the game, it gives you A, more time to get there, B, potentially more time to do what some fans like to do before they go into games and things like that. So it is what it is. Again, everybody was, again, going crazy yesterday of, it's the Sunday of the round of 32 and you got 3 games starting after 9 Eastern. It is what it is. It's everything. Look, everything's made for TV, right? I mean, it's all about the TV dollars, like everything else.
No doubt. No question. And so they will find themselves playing at that game time. Meanwhile, Alabama playing in Newark, they've got the first tip time on Thursday. That is a 6:09 tip time. So 7 SEC teams have made it into the Sweet 16. And Molly, the 3-man front Twitter poll question of the day had to do with what impressed our listeners the most. And a lot of you, about almost 500 of you, have already voted today, which is pretty outstanding.
Yeah, so Pat said it. Which SEC team has impressed you the most so far? Has it been Ole Miss, Arkansas, Auburn, or Alabama? And still winning is Coach Cal and the Arkansas Razorbacks with 39.3%. Ole Miss is in a close second with 34.6%. Alabama at 16.5% and Auburn only at 9.6%.
So you can go vote at the 3-man front Twitter poll question of the day. We also like your interaction on the text line brought to you by Courtesy GMC 205-834-9450. Molly, what do we got?
Let's start with Trip from Venice Beach. He says, I was plus 9 units all JR. I could buy a Corvette on the winnings.
How about
that? But
that?
I'm smarter than that. He said, shout out to JR. Is he going to be on air this week?
I assume he will be. I do not know that for a fact.
We will confirm a date.
Yes.
Once we figure that out. This texter says, the Boiler Room in Omaha, top 50 restaurants in the United States, been 20 times. I've never been, but...
Is it a steakhouse?
I don't know. I've never heard of it. I wasn't in Omaha a lot, though.
Somewhere in middle America.
Oh, yeah.
You know that song? Omaha by the Counting Crows?
Yes, I do.
Oh, you do? Okay,
yeah,
there you go. So
John
you got
Rothstein has the shirt, too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. This texter says, The Office is the GOAT when it comes to TV series.
Yeah, today is the, we didn't say anything to Conrad about that. It's the 20th anniversary of the show debuting on NBC.
This texter says, Arrested Development walked so that The Office and Modern Family could run. Oh, this is Collins from Pale City.
Okay,
read that again.
It says, Arrested Development walked so that The Office and Modern Family could run. I haven't seen that.
That's fair. Yeah.
Arrested Development's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's underrated. It doesn't get a lot of play, but yeah, that's a good call.
Jake says, I used to like Hurley, but his shtick has run its course. Just a big baby when he doesn't get his way and has an excuse list a mile long.
He does have excuses.
Yeah.
Let's see. This texter says, the Lakers' job is not a dream by any stretch, but Dan Hurley is just an excuse guy. The guy could have said no to any one of those extracurricular activities. He should have said, this was on me. I let the guys down, and this is my staff's fault.
I think that's what he was saying it, but just in a more boisterous manner.
Cody's saying, what a bag, talking about Dan Hurley. And then he says, same rule when working in the mines. I'm assuming talking about, my past jobs.
Yep. But going back to Dan Hurley, he embraces this role.
He does.
He likes.
Oh, he loves it.
I mean, it's. But if you're looking for, what's the real message he was trying to get across? That's what you got to ask yourself.
Johnny says he loves your shirt, Pat.
Oh, my March Madness shirt.
Yeah.
It was from last year.
Where'd you get that?
UAB.
Oh, okay.
it's got all the.
I do like that shirt.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All the teams that participated in the last year's tournament, including my alma mater.
Drake says, if Todd Golden was to win the national championship, will pressure be on Billy Napier?
I think the pressure's already there, whether Golden wins it or not.
Yeah, I don't see how one affects the other. I think the Napier stuff's been pretty well stated. Golden's kind of come in under the radar a little bit.
The good news is that Golden was found not guilty of the investigation, which pretty much gave Strickland another lifeline.
Yes.
And because of the success of the basketball program, there might be a few people that would not be as quickly to try to get rid of Strickland when they get rid of Billy Napier.
Correct.
Michael says, travel tip for the South region in Atlanta. He says, take the MARTA. It lets out underneath State Farm Arena.
Good advice.
When was the last time you rode MARTA?
It's been a minute, probably 15, 20 years ago. Most of the time when I'm in Atlanta, it's drive in, drive out.
Same.
I try to get there early enough to.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been on MARTA?
No, but I know what it is. But I've never been on it.
Yeah, it used to drop off right there at the Georgia Dome.
Yep. That was the last time I was on one.
Yep. And that's, I'd do that as well. You would park at the first station.
Yep.
As you're coming into Atlanta, leave your car there.
It was great for on the way home.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And then get on MARTA and then drop off right there at the Georgia Dome.
BB here.
BB.
She says, see y'all tomorrow for some fun at Social Taco.
I think she's baking a cake for Don Don. Mm-hmm. I mean, the surprise that Molly recommended for them to do for him.
It was extravagant.
That was your idea?
It was my idea.
Wow. Yes.
He is. Listen, when Don Don sees what they've got him and knowing that Molly had her hand involved in that, it will bring tears to his eyes.
One more texter. This is Sam in Homewood. Is Pat firing in on the CBI?
No, I will not.
You have, excuse me, my voice cracked, going through puberty again. You have standards, right? You're above that.
No, I really don't. I need to take a break.
Oh, not a good weekend, huh?
Yesterday was really bad.
That's why you're so mad at Dan Hurley.
No.
Yeah.
No.
See?
Yeah.
No.
You always got to go past the, peel
How
that
much did
onion
you put
back.
on Wisconsin?
I don't think I had anything on Wisconsin.
Okay, I was just making sure.
No, that was just one. That was just obviously a Final Four pick.
Yeah.
Okay, which team are you most upset with today? Just answer it that way.
How many teams played yesterday?
Wow.
Oh man.
Must have been bad.
No. I did some things. I did some props. Why are you shaking your head? You're shaking your head.
Nervous
now.
twitch, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I had Florida above 80 points.
Ugh. That's tough.
Yeah, so it was Dan Hurley. See?
Mhm. Yeah,
You could tell in his voice, him going after.
it all correlates.
No, it wasn't. No, it was. I was
After
more
that-
irritated at Florida than I was Dan Hurley.
That is not my interpretation of the events.
Let's hear who else was on my list yesterday. I was trying to think of some other prop bets I lost. There were so many.
I was going to say so many you
mean,
can't remember.
I mean, I
Yeah.
can't
Did you
even.
bet on Duke or Baylor?
No, I didn't touch that one.
Michigan State?
Let me take a
New
look at my notes
Mexico?
here.
Kentucky and Illinois, they played?
I think I had Illinois.
Okay.
Let's see what else.
Arizona? Pac-12 after dark?
No, I didn't. I didn't touch that one. By the end of the day, I was so sick of.
Oh. I stayed up late for that one.
I'm looking here. I'm seeing what took place yesterday that gave me heartburn.
Sounds like everything did.
It
You hadn't
was-
been right all day. You've been moping around during the breaks. Anytime anybody asks you a question, say you don't want to talk about it.
I was curled up in the fetal position in the studio during a commercial break.
Yeah, that did happen.
Mhm.
Yes.
For the life of me, I cannot remember. I mean, seriously, there
It's
was like
probably best. If it was that bad, it's
I'll
just
say
making a
it's- yeah.
distant memory.
it was probably 3 or 4, but the 80-point deal with Florida,
That really got you.
that was
Well,
that was bad.
Shoot or shoot, Pat. And it seems like you should be involved in the CBI. The listeners want it, almost demand it.
Let's see. Had Illinois.
Mm.
I had Maryland.
Mm.
Yeah.
I've given you access to my 800 number for free.
How much did you win?
2-0 yesterday.
Good
you only
job.
played 2 games.
Yep. Kentucky money line
There you go.
and Alabama.
On the money line for Bama?
No, the points.
Points?
All you had to do was call, Pat, but that's okay.
No, you were busy.
You blocked my number.
No, you were busy. I don't interrupt you while you're spending time with family.
Okay.
We're 29 minutes away from the Paul Feinbaum Show. One of his featured guests, Walter Clayton Jr., will be on the program right out of the gate. Rick Barnes, the head basketball coach at the University of Tennessee, will all be a portion of his show today.
Yeah, going back to UConn, Walter Clayton Jr. played on that Iona team when UConn started that, 13-game winning streak.
Yep, sure did.
He also ended it. Helped end it with the Florida Gators.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
More 3-Man front on this Reaction Monday. This is Jocks 94.5. We're back here on Three Man Front. A few more minutes left to go in the show. We'll take you up to the Paul Feinbaum Show. Myself and Landrum will be at Social Taco tomorrow. It's Don Don's birthday. There will be a celebration had. They're on the taco. Why are you laughing?
Why are you laughing?
No reason.
Well, you might as well just spill it.
Well, no, I think it's going to be a great birthday party.
Well, I mean, you made some great suggestions to BB and PG, and they took you up on it. So.
I'm really at a loss right now.
That's fair. She's lost it in there.
She can't contain herself.
I just was not expecting that.
You weren't?
It was your suggestion.
Was it really your suggestion?
I cannot believe. I was sitting there going, what?
Pat said it was, and I just went along with it. Now I know what it is. I'm like, maybe not. But it's okay. It's still it's a great gift.
It's the gift that will keep on giving. Why is everybody laughing?
Is it warranted?
Comes with a patch kit.
Oh, God.
Are we on the air?
Not for long.
Oh, my goodness.
You guys are going to have so much fun tomorrow.
If we're still employed.
Oh, my goodness. All right. So we got the Sweet 16. It is in the books, ready to go. And Bruce Pearl, after the game on Saturday, he was pretty happy about the Auburn Tigers overcoming a 2-point deficit at the half and was able to get the big win. And for the first time since 2019, Auburn is out of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament.
Very proud of my team. We played Auburn basketball. We played like the #1 team in the country. We acted like the #1 team in the country. We prepared like the #1 team in the country. We talked a little bit about game one and not giving the kind of effort and energy that was required, and not really trusting one another, sharing it, and the sacrifices that need to be made. Tonight, we put all that behind us, and the guys did a phenomenal job on both ends of the floor.
So Auburn gets the big win, 82-70 over Creighton. What was impressive to me, Ryan, was the fact that this Auburn team can come at you in different waves. And yes, Janai Broome was 4 of 13 from the field, continues to have problems from the free throw line. But you had Todd Pettiford, 23 points. He showed out the game before that. It was Miles Kelly who set the tone with the outside shot. So Baker Mazzara, second half especially, came out and really just did a phenomenal job. So this Auburn team overcame maybe some sluggish play down low, but outside the guards were incredible.
Well, it's going to come down to guard play. The tournaments always do. I mean, again, Broome against Michigan, they got the Wolf kid they got big guys. Michigan State's got big guys. If they can get through there, you know who Ole Miss has got. They're a little bit undersized, but Ole Miss would have a plan too if they get there. And then you get there and you got the Florida guys, assuming they make it. Like it's going to be that way the rest of the tournament.
Sure is. Meanwhile, Alabama yesterday against St. Mary's. St. Mary's needed to make this a rock fight. They needed to make it as ugly as possible against Alabama. And Alabama, they're the ones that made St. Mary's look ugly. They shot 25% in the first half. They were 0 for 6 on threes. Bama led by 13 at the half. At one point, it looked like St. Mary's, after they hit a couple threes, potentially, I don't think they got it to anything closer than, 7 or 8, something like that. And Alabama ends up with a 14-point win. It's the first time in 105 games that St. Mary's has given up 80 or more points in a game. So the Tide, they move on to the Sweet 16. Here's Nate Oates after the game.
That's a tough team. We knew they were tough. We got up on them 13 at the half. We knew they weren't going to go away. They came out in the second half. They were scoring on us a little too much. I thought our guys, though, did after they made a little run there, I thought our guys answered it. We played well on the offensive end. For most of the game, we had too many turnovers. They had 0 turnovers at the half. We were able to turn them over 6 times in the second half, which was big, helpful. We were up 10 on them on the glass at the half, and they're the second best offensive rebounding team in the country behind Texas A&M. We've happened to play both of them. Houston's obviously up there too, but I thought our guys did a really good job. Cliff had 8 defensive rebounds. He had a double-double, 11 and 10. I thought our guards did a pretty good job finding them. We had 6 guys scoring double figures between 10 and 13. I really want to. Sears is not up here, but I thought his energy, his positivity when he was on the bench with the 2 fouls, how hard he played on defense, even with the foul trouble, I thought was huge. We had other guys step up and be able to score. It's tough to guard us when you get 6 guys capable of getting double digits, and that's not even counting multiple guys that have scored it well for us that didn't get to double digits. So thought we had great leadership tonight, showed a lot of toughness. Said, the tougher team's going to win this one, and that's one of the tougher teams in the country. So really, our guys really stepped up and met the challenge there tonight.
Third consecutive year that Alabama has made it to the Sweet 16. It's the second time that has happened. The other time was Wimp Sanderson back in the mid-'80s. This is also the first time since 2004, 5th time ever, that the state of Alabama has had 2 teams in the Sweet 16. The other years, 82, it was Bama and UAB. 85, it was Alabama and Auburn. 86, it was Alabama and Auburn. And in 2004, that was the last time that it has happened in the state. It was Alabama and UAB. So first time since 1986 that both Alabama and Auburn have made it to the Sweet 16, I should say, in the same time frame. 1-800-239-WJOX. Let's go to Rob in Helena. Hey, Rob, I hope you're doing well.
I am. How about you, Pat? Are you out of your fetal position or kind of stretched out any?
No, I'm actually upright right now in a seat. I appreciate the concern. I'm good.
I was listening to him on the radio on my way home.
He wasn't earlier. I will tell you that. He was not earlier. I have a couch in my office, and he came in and what's wrong, man? He said, bad day.
It was a bad day, but today's a better day.
Yeah. New opportunities.
Well, you know what? Maybe I should have given you that $12 I gave Landrum and said, hey, look, bet me opposite of what you. And we'd have all kinds of money going out to, our choices of, Salvation Army and what have you. But no, talking about the guy from Connecticut, my goodness, he shows his butt so much more than everyone else. And no one's going to – how could you like him? At first I did. I thought I kind of liked him or what have you, but I don't know. I agree with it. He's done a great job at UConn and things like that. But anyway, that last stat, Pat, that you just put out about everyone, from Alabama on the Sweet 16, and teams from Alabama was in every one of them.
That's correct. It's the 5th time that Alabama is one of those schools that is in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, that's kind of incredible. I'm not real sure I'm going to make it for Don's birthday.
Oh no!
And I told him that. The weather this morning was kind of not what we do is not wasn't conducive of it, so I'm going to be a day behind. But anyway, you guys have fun up there, and I appreciate everything that you guys do.
Appreciate it, Rob.
Molly,
we completely understand.
Yeah, and Molly, all my 16, 17-year-old, well, my 16-year-old son, they're all down in Panama City, and they're waiting here for me to make my take tomorrow and to hear your voice. I'm sorry, I told you about it at Twin Peaks last week, but they're hooked on you.
Hey, Rob, thank you, man. Have a good Tuesday. We'll see you soon.
All right, you guys take care.
Thank you. That's Rob from Helena giving us a call. Do you ever run into Rob at the grocery store in Helena?
I don't believe so.
No?
I don't know. I don't know that have I met Rob face to face?
Rob was there at Twin Peaks when you were there?
When? Thursday?
Yeah, he was wearing a Helena hat.
I think he left before Ryan got there, maybe.
Yeah. I don't remember seeing him.
All right, Corey's next in Hueytown. Hey, Corey, what's going on?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good, man. How are you on this Monday?
Really, really well. I thought after watching the UAB Santa Clara game last night, especially the start of the second half, I thought I was going to have a really hard time calling in today. I want to get your guys' thoughts on. I'm really proud of UAB's performance yesterday, being down 17 in the second half, and more they just kept fighting and fighting and fighting, and then all of a sudden they come back to win the game, and I'm like, you were down 17 at one point, and then all of a sudden it's a tie game, and then you take the lead, they try to come back, and then you hold on and win. Man, Andy Kennedy, I'm pretty sure he has to be proud of his team. And I'm waiting to see what happens Wednesday night against UC Irvine. I'm pretty sure that's going to be an interesting matchup.
No, it should be a good one. You know, the thing that impressed me the most, not only the comeback by UAB, but from the 16-minute mark or the under 16 media timeout until the end of the game, UAB had one turnover. One.
Yeah.
They only had 4 the entire game, but when you only turn the ball over one time, within that time frame, that allows you the opportunity to take advantage of your possessions. And you cannot say enough about what Christian Coleman did last night. He had 21 points. So anytime you get someone that can alleviate that pressure off of Yaxel Lindeborg scoring-wise, and Christian did it last night, that's huge for UAB moving forward.
Hey, Pat, I saw something on social media today that Yaxel Lindeborg is one of the players in the country that had more points and more rebounds in a single season. And I think Larry Bird was the other player the other player that had some kind of record.
Corey, you're probably right. I mean, it is amazing what has happened with Yaxel Lindeborg. I was reading an article yesterday prior to the UAB game in which the latest NBA mock drafts, they've got him as a top 27 pick.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yes.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Hey, another thing. We could see potentially, if UAB wins, Wednesday night and Alabama and Auburn, make it to the final, make it to San Antonio. I would really love to see 2 teams from the same state win the NCAA championship and the NIT championship.
Wouldn't that be great? That'd be fantastic.
That would be awesome. I would love to see that.
That would be good. But I tell you what, Andy Kennedy, the last 5 years, he is 17-6 in postseason basketball. He knows how to coach in the postseason.
Here, let me say this right now. He is a future Hall of Famer. He is a college basketball Hall of Fame coach.
He's outstanding. I hope he sticks around.
Hope so.
Thank you, Corey. Appreciate it. Thank you for the call.
Blazers.
All right, go Blazers. 149, Jocks 94.5. Quick timeout. Paul Feinbaum Show coming up at the top of the hour. This is Jocks 94.5. You know, Courtesy Madness is on right now at Courtesy GMC in Trussville. To close out the month of March, Courtesy GMC is dialing up the offers to close out the month of March. Up to $14,500 off the 2025 GMC Sierras in stock. Up to $6,000 off MSRP on the brand new 2025 GMC Yukon Denali. These Yukon Denali's offer a luxurious and capable full-size SUV experience. Great interior with redesigned information center, available with 24-inch wheels and a powerful 6.2-liter V8 engine. 10% off MSRP on an all-new 2025 GMC Canyon in stock. $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2025 GMC Acadias. So you can tell the deals are ready for you today. Courtesy GMC, located right off of I-459, exit 32 in Trussville. Visit their online inventory, courtesybirmingham.com. Right off of 459, Trussville, exit 32, or check out their inventory at courtesybirmingham.com. Couple more minutes left to go in the show, and I know many of you out there, you have put together brackets. And, you know, for a decade, Warren Buffett, the billionaire Oracle of Omaha, and he's a Creighton basketball fan, he's held a men's NCAA tournament contest for employees of Berkshire Hathaway conglomerate. Berkshire has around 395,000 employees, and they have 60-plus subsidiaries, and they have this contest, this bracket contest, and usually between 60 and 70,000 entrants in this bracket contest through his company. The full prize is $1 million, but no one has ever won the jackpot until now. In the past, the prize was $1 million every year for life for anyone who perfectly predict the Sweet 16. In the 10 years of the pool, it hasn't happened. The consolation prize was $100,000 to the bracket that remained perfect the longest. Someone won the prize every year, or multiple people split the prize of $100,000. This year, Buffett tweaked the rules, effectively lowering the bar to earn the $1 million. He said he'll give $1 million to anyone who correctly nails at least 30 of the first 32 games. Buffett told the Wall Street Journal he eased the rules because I'm getting older. I want to give away $1 million to someone while I'm still around as a chairman. Buffett is 94 years old. Now, according to the daily updates sent to all the Berkshire pool participants from Chester Q. Brackington, which that is Buffett's name, after Michigan State beat Bryant late Friday night, this year's contest had multiple brackets that had one wrong, meaning 30 correct. So he said in the email, we will have a prize awarded. After Oregon beat Liberty in the final game of the first rounds, Brackington wrote, we have our first ever confirmed award for the prize. That means at least one person or multiple people won the $1 million prize. Berkshire plans on announcing the identity of the winner or the winners sometime today. So how about that?
That's really cool,
He
man.
eased the rules. 60 to 70,000 people are in this bracket, and somebody's going to get $1 million, or at least a couple people may, split the $1 million. This tradition by Buffett goes back to 2014 when Berkshire Hathaway ensured a Quickens loan promotion that was open to the public and offered $1 billion for a perfect bracket. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
No one won, by the way. That promotion inspired Buffett to start a contest for his employees back in 2016. So have not seen a press release yet, but some lucky employee is about to be a millionaire.
Well, hopefully he's also helping them get all the legal stuff squared away and stuff to protect the money before they go public.
Correct. Maybe one day our bracket will have $1 million in it, Ryan.
Maybe.
Thanks to the suit, Ryan Haney, for hanging out with us. Landrum, the first hour of the show. Everybody will be on three-man front tomorrow, for the exception of Conrad, who is still suspended. Have a great afternoon. Paul Feinbaum is next.